Wow.
I told her it was. Oh, no, I forget it was.
I wouldn't recognize it like.
Everybody got their mics on? Call the meeting to order. Thank you for everybody that's here tonight. We have a full house. Sorry, we don't have enough chairs for everybody. Welcome to the February 8th City Council meeting. Going to ask for Ron Harris to please come up and, well, first we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Mr. Harris, thank you so much for coming up. Want to recognize Ron Harris. He's the senior pastor of Greater Love World Outreach and does the, can you explain a little bit about your ministry that you do in the prison system?
Okay. Well, I didn't have anything else to do, so I thought I'd just go down with some buddies and enjoy myself. First, I want to say we live in the greatest country in the whole wide world, and I just thank God that we're able to meet like this and have an opportunity for that. But we've been doing ministry around here for a long time. We've enjoyed working with the people from Graham. I think it's one of the greatest places here. We even come to the soda shop and eat and everything and all, but we're just doing something because everybody got to get up every morning and do something else. So just praise God for that. Thank you for this opportunity to come and to share just a word of prayer with you.
Thank you.
I'm good. Ready?
Can we bow our heads?
Yes, would you bow your heads, please? Father, we just thank you tonight for this great opportunity you have set before us, Lord, that we could come together in a spirit of oneness, Lord God. And sometimes we look and maybe it looks like friend and foe, but Lord God, we're all coming together in a spirit of oneness tonight, Lord God. Thank you for giving us the mind of Christ as we come and share needs and differences and opinions, Lord God, here in this great place. And so, Lord, we just thank you for just this opportunity and that we might be able to do and further the business of this community, Lord. In the name of Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Became familiar with your organization through Jeremy Aiken at the tax office and what all the wonderful things that Piedmont Men of Steel do. Just wonderful. Wonderful what you do in the community. Thank you very much for being here. Want to recognize the Eagle Scouts, Nathan Philip Kreider, Nicholas Burke Wolf, and Zachary Michael Wolf. If you'll please come forward. Whereas the Scouts, Boy Scouts of America, have respected as an organization that helps mold young people into responsible, conscientious adults, and whereas the rank of Eagle Scout is considered to be the pinnacle of achievement, with the first class of Eagles being recognized in 1912, and whereas Zachary Michael Wolf is a member of the Scouts PSA Troop 4001, and whereas for his by an Eagle Scout Board, and now therefore, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Graham, North Carolina, I do hereby deem it an honor and privilege to extend to Zachary Michael Wolf our sincerest congratulations for his outstanding Eagle Scout project and the award. Nathan Kreider. What you built for your service project was white boxes to benefit visually impaired for the Alamance Burlington school system. Nicholas Wolf for your Eagle Scout project and earning Eagle Scout. In order to do that, you have to earn a full merit badge. And you re-landscaped the grounds of the Grove Park Church. Thank you. So is Crystal Porter in the room? So we're going to postpone that until next month. I think there was a conflict with her being here. And I just want to say in regards to the Eagle Scouts, whenever I have ever gotten any job applications with that designation, I have always ended up hiring an Eagle Scout, and they have always 100% been wonderful. I can't say enough good things about that program from my own personal experience, so we appreciate them being here tonight. In regards to the City of Graham retirees, could I please ask for Richard Allgood to please come up, Paul Ingrick, and Mark Manning. Diligently served the city of Graham from 1999 until January 31st, 2022, and was retired wastewater treatment plant operator on January 31st, 2022. With nearly 23 years of service, a repository of his institutional knowledge, wisdom, and care while gaining the utmost respect of colleagues and the citizens of Graham. Whereas the desire of the city council to extend their deepest appreciation to Richard for the excellent time and service he has afforded to the citizens of Graham and his fellow employees. Now therefore be it resolved by the city council of the city of Graham, Richard will be commended for his outstanding public service to the city of Graham. Be it further resolved that an expression of appreciation be extended to Mr. Richard Allgood in the form of this proclamation of commendation and appreciation, and that this proclamation become a part of the official records of the city of Graham for all time, and the original thereof be presented to him in person, presented this day, the 8th day of February. Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know what we're going to do at the wastewater treatment plant. You work the third shift there, right?
I worked all the shifts.
That's okay.
All right.
Thank you so much. Okay. We need to be closer to the mic. So this is the proclamation and commendation and appreciation of Mark Manning for his service to the city of Graham. Mark has been a fixture here in Graham, whereas Mark Manning diligently served the city of Graham from March 5th, 2001 until January 31st, 2022. And whereas Mark retired as a landscape specialist on January 31st, 2022, with nearly 21 years of service. And whereas Mark has proven to be a repository of institutional knowledge, wisdom, and care while gaining the utmost respect for his colleagues and the citizens of Graham. And whereas it is the desire of the City Council to extend their deepest appreciation to Mark for the excellent time and service he has afforded the citizens of Graham and his fellow employees. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Graham that Mark be commended for his outstanding public service to the City of Graham. Be it further resolved that an expression of appreciation be extended to Mr. Mark Manning in the form of this proclamation of commendation and appreciation, and that this proclamation become a part of the official records of the City of Graham for all of time, and the original thereof be presented to him in person. Presented this 8th day of February, 2022. Thank you so much. Paul could not be with us tonight, but we certainly want to recognize and show appreciation to Paul Ingrid. He also is retiring, and I believe he had, is it 20 years of service? 21 years of service with the City of Graham. Mark, you know, everyone knows if you've been downtown Graham to see the beautiful flowers that he planted. And just really, this is a lot of experience that is retiring. And so I would think I was even plugging on the radio this morning that if you're interested in working here at the City of Graham, we certainly appreciate anybody that's interested in doing that. We do have some open positions, and we certainly do appreciate the service and dedication that these fine gentlemen gave to the City of Graham. We will move on now to ask for the fire department, and if there's anyone here for the Children of Fallen Heroes, the Graham Parks and Rec, in regards to the 9/11 commemorative 5K and first responder team.
Yeah, stay here. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. As everyone comes up, I just wanted to publicly thank the ones who are responsible for putting this event on this past year. Captain Sisk with the Police Department, Mary Fawcett with the Downtown Development Coordinator, Brandy McCandless and Emma Griffin with the Graham Recreation and Parks Department, and Captain Moore with the Fire Department got us all into this. It was his idea to recognize 9/11 on 9/11 this past year in some way that would benefit the community. So I will let Emma do the presentations. Thank you.
Good evening. This past year, the Graham Fire, Police, and Rec and Parks Department came together to create an event to remember and honor those who were affected by the tragedies on 9/11 in 2001. The ultimate goal of this event was to create a space and to bring our community together, and then to also give back directly into our community. We identified as a committee the Children of Fallen Heroes nonprofit organization to donate any proceeds gained from that event. Thanks to our generous sponsors, over 200 participants in our first 5K event, and attendees on the day of the event, we are very happy to present this check of $4,680 $90 to the Children of Fallen Heroes organization. I'd like to welcome Kenneth Wasley, president and founder of that organization, to present that check.
Tom, did you need a picture?
You're good. You get a picture? We're okay. My name is Kenneth Wasley. I am the founder and president of Children of Fallen Heroes. This was a very, very special thing for me to be introduced to the city, and we were so welcomed. I could not believe what an incredible job Emma and the city of Graham did, including the fire department, to make it such a fun experience for everybody in the community. It's important for us to remember that, you know, the reason why we're doing all this, you know, all you guys are on the front line. And we know we've had a bad year, bad couple years and everything else, but we got to take care of the kids. You know, we got to take care of our fallen heroes. That's what we do. That's what we're about. We all are underneath the one cloth. I'd like to present a couple of things, if I could, to the groups here. Emma, for all your hard work and everything that you did. I wanted to just thank you so much for doing that for us. I mean, really blessed. I'm trying to hold it together. This is the chief just as well, and it's over here. The fire department was absolutely amazing. You guys are the heartbeat of what we do. If there's anything that we can do for the children here in the city of Graham, you know that we're here for you. Present that to you. And I'd also like to give this. I'm gonna have to do this for the city, for the Graham recreation. I have one for the police. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll present that to them,
Okay.
and then we'll get
And
in there.
Brian from the rec department.
And from the rec department and everything. This as well. We're here for everybody. If there's anything that you guys need, we're here. All right.
Thank you, John.
Thank you to the council for allowing us this time. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
So the next part of this presentation, in part of our 9/11 event, we had a First Responders Team Cup Challenge. Teams of at least 3 people from different first responder organizations, welcome from anywhere, could enter in. The lowest 3 times of each team were tallied, and then obviously the winner with the lowest scores will receive this team cup every year with a plaque of their organization, to create a little bit of a competition amongst the different departments and organizations. This year, we had 7 different first responder teams enter, and I am proud to present our First Responders Team Cup of the inaugural year to the Graham Fire Department.
They were part of the runners. I was just more support. I was on the different times at all too.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I want to recognize Chief Cole to speak on the Embers Fire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. I hate we couldn't do the proclamation. Hopefully next month we'll be able to do that. But I did ask several of our members and some guests that I wanted to bring and showcase for the efforts of their work at the Embers Fire. So just to give a little brief overview. So obviously the Embers Fire was a historic fire for the city of Graham. From talking to the old guys, you know, it definitely ranks up there with one of the top 3 to 5 fires in our city. And we hope we never have another one, but they do happen. And that's why we exist. So on December 19th, 2021 at 5:03 a.m., we were alerted to a fire at the Embers Motor Lodge. Initial call said fire reported to be in the attic. Obviously, we've been to fires at Embers before, and we knew it was just a matter of time before a building with that kind of age would catch on fire. We always hoped it would be a contained fire in a room and no one would get hurt and the damage would be minimal. However, on December the 19th, that was not the case. The fire was in the attic and had a much of a head start on us when we arrived. So again, fire started at 5:03 a.m. That's when the call came in. We went under control at 11:39, some 4 hours later, and we actually cleared the scene that afternoon or evening around 5:22 p.m. So over 12 hours, a lot of time and effort was spent at Embers to put out this fire, to investigate the cause of the fire, and to help the displaced residents of Embers. So as I talk, I would like to, I'm gonna bring up a couple people, and then we're gonna recognize a lot more people. So the way our fire department operates, we have an officer on call in the evenings after hours, and that person is responsible for managing fire scenes. On this particular day, that was Captain Jason Cook. Jason was in the supervisor vehicle and responded and arrived and took over instant command of the Embers fire. So I'll ask Jason if he'll come forward. Also, Captain Kevin Squires, one of our volunteer captains, works at the town of Morrisville full-time, and he's there tonight. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here. Kevin became part of the operations, and then the third person that makes up the instant command team that I worked with is Assistant Chief Marshal Lynch from the Hall River Fire Department. So I'll ask Marshall to come. Marshall taught me everything I know about firefighting. So the reason I want to recognize Jason and Marshall and Kevin is because the work happens with the firefighters, the boots on the ground, but somebody has to organize and call the shots and make the scene as safe as possible. And that happened with these gentlemen right here and Kevin, and he's supposed to be watching, so I hope you're watching, Kevin. You know, we developed plans, we developed goals and strategies. That happened with Jason. It passed on to Marshall and passed on to the crews about how we were going to operate the fire. The best part about this was we had such a seasoned team. I was able to take a step back and do the things that I need to do to work with the displaced residents. Kudos to Brian Fawcett. I know he was just up here, and I try not to give Brian any more credit than I need to. I called Brian and I said, Brian, I need a bus. I need you to open the Civic Center. He said, I'll be there in 15 minutes. 14 minutes and about 59 seconds later. Brian arrived with a bus and we started to move displaced citizens. That was all taking place while we had a raging fire at the Embers Motor Lodge. They did not have time to do that. That allowed me the time to step back and do stuff behind the scenes. They kept the fire operations running all day long, rotating people in and out. It was just the scene that we don't have a lot, but they did a tremendous job. And these guys and Kevin, my hat's off, A+ work on that fire. I wouldn't have done anything different if I'd been in charge of the fire myself. At the end of the day, we had 15 fire apparatus and command vehicles on the scene. We had 49 personnel, 22 from Graham, the remainder from the departments that assisted us. On our first alarm, we were assisted by Swepsonville, E.M. Holt, and Hall River. Chief Franklin's here. Hats off to Hall River for their assistance. Our second alarm was Burlington Fire, Mebane Fire, Fawcett Fire Department, Eli Whitney, and Alamance County Fire Marshal's Office. So you can see how this incident grew very rapidly, and we needed the assistance. Our other resources that were provided to us was Grand PD. They were there first, parked in a way like they normally do. No, I'm just kidding. Alamance County EMS, Alamance County Rescue, Graham Rexon Park, Alamance County DSS and Health Departments, the American Red Cross, the Alamance County Arson Task Force, the North Carolina Bureau of Investigation, the Office of State Fire Marshal, and ATF. So all this stuff happened in a 12-hour period where we brought these kind of resources into Graham to assist us on this fire. I've sent them all thank you letters from us, the city, and told them how much we appreciated all their help. But again, the boots on the ground, the people on the end of the hose lines, for some of these people back here, and I just want to recognize them for their efforts. Guys, you did a great job, but I couldn't have asked you to do anything but we all know this week, Winston-Salem had a very massive incident and had the explosion occur. We probably would have felt it in Graham ourselves, but these incidents luckily do not happen often. But I can tell you that we have a team that is ready to go at any moment. Dedicated members that know their job, and I'm a lucky man to be their fire chief. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and hopefully next month we can recognize Ms. Porter.
I think, it was really, I did not realize that the rooms backed up to one another and how important the exits were. And someone had told me that when I went over to the rec center, one of the residents over there, that, when they were calling 911, they were telling the 911 operator that flames were coming out of their vents that were above in the ceiling. And just what a danger, that was to so many people. And that's why we were wanting to recognize this person that went and got people out of those rooms. Because really, if that front entrance was blocked, it would have been just no way for those people to get out and no way for you to get to them. And it was the quick thinking of these firemen, the police officers, the first responders, your staff on the ground. Jason, thank you for taking command and what you did there. I mean, the fact that we lost no lives that day was really an amazing thing, considering there was no sprinkler systems. And Brian, thank you for what you did at the rec department. You spent the whole day there. I went over there, and when I came back, you were still there. Just appreciate, it really is wonderful that when our community has a crisis, that everybody kind of comes together, including neighboring first responders. We're all a big family, and they all, and really you absolutely saved lives that day. I truly believe it. And just thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts.
Yep, thank you for the opportunity. Jason, you want to say that?
Jason, speech.
Man of no words. I don't think.
Speech.
No, I think she pretty much said it all. I mean, we definitely couldn't have done it without the support of Fall River and SWEPS and all the surrounding agencies, the police department especially. If I'm not mistaken, one of the cops actually turned the hydrant on for us. And if those of you that don't know, we've known that building was going to be a struggle if it ever went down. And it did. Part of that was water supply. It was a long ways away. And to have one of us to go back to the hydrant just to turn the water on, that in and of itself was very important. But no, a lot of thanks to you guys for providing us with the resources. Thanks to the surrounding agencies. Brian, you guys rock. But on that, yeah, it couldn't have gone any better. It certainly could have went a different direction, but thankfully it didn't.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I believe the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda to approve the minutes of January 11th, 2022. City Council regular meeting to approve the non-competitive or sole source procurement of equipment for the City of Graham's wastewater treatment plant expansion project. C, to approve the donation of 10 surplus self-contained breathing apparatus, air packs, 13 SCBA masks, and 22 SCBA bottles of Graham High School, bottles to Graham High School's fire program, and pursuant to General Statutes 160-A-274. D, to approve the tax collector's mid-year tax report. Do I hear a motion and a second to approve or deny the consent agenda?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we approve them.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. New business. At the December 13th City Council meeting, council agreed to hold a motion and vote method on interested candidates until council reached a majority vote. At this time, I will entertain nominations for the city council vacancy. The first nominee to receive a majority vote will be appointed to fill the vacancy. We had a lot of qualified and experienced people that were willing to hold this seat, and I very much appreciate the community stepping up and being willing to serve. We did have one candidate that withdrew their request for consideration, and that was Jim Young. I guess one of the first things we really, need to do is George Grouse, who submitted his application after the deadline of January 30th and sent it on January 31st. You've gotten a copy of that, and I guess if you want to consider him, then you can just make a motion to nominate that particular person, but I personally didn't have a problem with anybody that wanted to submit being considered. So I reviewed all the applications myself, and I have my kind of top tier people, but do I have a nomination from a council member as to an appointment to fill the vacancy based on the questionnaires that you've read over?
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we appoint Bonnie Whitaker to fill your vacancy.
Any discussion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think she was a very qualified candidate. I think there were some other qualified candidates as well. We appreciate, is Bonnie here tonight? Hi. How are you? So you will need to be here at the next city council meeting, which will take place on March the 8th. It's always the second Tuesday of the month, but because the first falls on a Tuesday, it's a little bit earlier in the month than what normally is. So you'll need to be here on March 8th. And I think at that time, we'll be doing the board appointments that we would typically have done in January, but we were waiting to get another council member to fill that seat in order to be able to do that. So appreciate you can get with Aaron in the meantime and look at all the different commissions that are available and see which ones you'd be interested in serving on. But thank you for putting in your application, and thanks to all the candidates that put in their application. We will now move on to the citizens' appeal of civil penalties notification. A city council will consider an appeal for a civil penalties notification for the property located at 319 Holt Avenue. The property was cited to be in violation in regards to an abandoned motor vehicles that have been declared a public nuisance. Hey, Wayne.
Yes, ma'am. They say I got some junk vehicles there, but I don't. I have 3 trailers there. I've had tags on them for over a year. When I was in the hospital 2 years ago, the tags lapsed on them, and I didn't know it until it was pointed out to me. The officer came out there and told me about it. I told him I'd show him the registration cards, and that wasn't sufficient enough. They wanted to go inside the yard, and I got a dog loose in there, and I told them they couldn't go in the yard. I have a 6-foot fence around my house. There's 2 yards in that neighborhood that has fences. But if you go 10 houses from my yard, anyway, you'll find more cars and more stuff in yards than I've got in mine.
Okay. Well, Aaron stepped out for just a second. Wait for Aaron to get back, but
I've got the registration cards. If you want to see them
is Jenny Bo still here? Jenny, do you have, if he has can present you with the registrations, is that going to cure the problem? Yeah, sure, please.
So the ordinance states that the valid plate has to be on the vehicle. So that's what I would need to see, the actual plate on the vehicle, trailer or camper or whatever the case may be.
Even if he has the registration? So are you saying, what if he takes a picture of it? Is that sufficient?
In the past, I'd like to go out there and view it myself.
Hey, okay. We're gonna be at a standstill because he doesn't want you on the property. And I think he has a legal right to not have you on the property. So if he provides you with pictures, I mean, you speak to this, Aaron, but this is too, you're trying to cure this situation, but he also has, I guess, paperwork to show that all his vehicles are tagged.
Yeah, and I hate to put our attorneys on the spot on this case, but I guess the question would be, are pictures sufficient enough to provide the needed thing that Jenny's needing? Can we go with the pictures, or would she need to be able to see it physically herself? So I hate to put him on the spot, but that would be a question that the
I
attorneys have.
think what would be good, Mayor, would be for us to sort of look at what Mr. Brewer has, continue this to the next meeting so we can make a proper decision. We need to look at it, because
Look at the paperwork, you mean?
you look at the
Yeah.
paperwork and look at it all, because I think in all fairness, I think that's what we need to do.
Okay,
I would like the council to continue to the next meeting. In the meantime, we'll look at the paperwork and we'll see whether or not that's satisfactory.
but if the vehicles are tagged, then is that cure the problem then with you, Ms. Bose?
That does for the junk vehicles. If all of them have tags and we're good with that part of it, then there's the junk debris. I didn't know if you was gonna bring that up next or.
No, I'm asking you. When I read the letter, it just said a nuisance. It doesn't say
There's two-
specifically whether he
There's
has.
two different violations.
Okay,
So
so for the junk, the trash is, what do you need? Maybe a picture of the backyard?
So I guess if you had a picture of the front, both sides and the back, then
Okay,
that would be, a good, clear, detailed picture.
okay. Do you think you can do that, Mr. Brewer? Okay,
You can email them to me or bring them up there.
Can't hear you.
You can email them to me or print them off,
Okay.
bring them to me.
okay. So we're gonna postpone this, and do you want to postpone this for just 30 days or 60 days or?
Mayor, to be on the safe side, if you postpone it 60 days, that would certainly give us sufficient time,
Okay,
to meet with all the affected parties and look at whatever needs to be submitted.
Okay.
We'd feel much more comfortable if the council be willing to do that.
okay. So, we will postpone this until I'd like to make a motion to postpone this until April the 12th, 2022. Do I hear a second?
I'll second your motion.
All in favor? Aye. So it'll be postponed until April, and that'll give you enough time to get with the zoning enforcement officer to get her what she needs, and she'll forward that on to the attorneys to make sure that that's taken care of. Jeannie, thank you very much for what you do, and we appreciate it. We want to try to work with residents as much as we can to get, zoning issues resolved in a way that hopefully doesn't result in, concern or whatever for the residents. So they're going to do everything they can, Mr. Brewer, to work with you. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. So now we'll move on to agenda item number 3, boards and committee discussion. City Council will discuss the City of Graham's current and potential boards and committees. This was an action item that was brought up at the last City Council meeting to create a new committee called the Economic Development and Marketing Committee. I'm going to recognize Aaron Holland, Assistant City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. As you said at the last council meeting, council requested that staff research and present a framework for an economic development committee to serve as a new advisory board to the council. The attached language provides the framework for an economic development and marketing committee that will serve as an advisory board to council by identifying opportunities and making recommendations to develop policies, programs, and initiatives to promote wide-ranging economic growth. This committee would also provide support efforts for the revitalization of existing businesses and recruitment of new businesses across the city. So the attached framework has been reviewed by our attorneys. And if council is agreeable to what you have before you, we just need direction for staff to move forward, reaching out to create the memberships and the language that you would need to have for bylaws.
So do I hear, has everybody had an opportunity to review the, I guess is it bylaws that you created?
Yeah, it's basically framework bylaws, yeah.
Right, so I read over them and they looked fine to me. So do I hear a motion to,
Madam Mayor, make an amendment. It seems that the committee is scheduled to have 5 members. I would like to propose 7.
okay? What does the rest of the council feel about that? Joey?
I don't have a problem with it. It's just a matter of finding 7 people that's willing to do it.
Well, I think this committee will be, I know that just the mention of it at the last committee meeting, I had several people that were interested. So, I mean, obviously, if we can only find 5, then it'll be a 5-member committee with 2 vacancies. But I think giving them the option might be a good idea. So I think I concur with you. What do you think?
I'm good.
Okay, make a motion that we form an economic development and marketing committee formation with the amendment of 7 members instead of 5. Do I hear a second?
That's second your motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And the next agenda item is item 3B, which is the reunification of the Parents Committee and the Tree Board Commission. Aaron can address this item.
Thank you, Mayor. The city council requested that staff research the existing enabling language for the Appearance Commission and Tree Board and present an alternative that would recombine the 2 boards. The boards were separated by the city council at the June 6, 2017 council meeting and subsequently moved from the city's development ordinance to the city's code of ordinances. The attached language illustrates repositioning the Tree Board as a subcommittee to the Appearance Commission.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the recombining or realignment of the Appearance Board, Tree Board into the Appearance Board.
And so it is my understanding that it for years and years and years was kind of a subcommittee of the other board.
Correct. Prior to 2017, it was a 15-member board that broke off into the Tree Board. And in order for the city to maintain the Tree City USA designation, the city has to have a Tree Board established. The options when we were looking at the language were we could either try to figure out a way to mesh the 2 boards together and have language that addresses both boards in one particular language, or go back to how the language was prior, where you had language for the Appearance Commission and then language for the Tree Board, but address the membership for the Tree Board as a subcommittee to the Appearance Commission, which is what you have before you, which is also the easiest way to do it as well. One other note, I'm not sure can council move forward with the Code of Ordinance language without it coming back to them in that format? Because currently it's basically on the discussion.
I think you can move forward with it.
Okay.
That's by super majority, the
So you have to have a supermajority to move forward with the language you have before you tonight.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to amend my motion. Seeing that the appearance board has one vacant seat, I would make the motion to approve it and bringing Megan Buckman Hitman to fill that board seat from the tree board.
Okay, so we didn't really discuss that. So with the issue of basically the planning board also acts as the board of adjustment, certain members of, and so that's basically what we're going back to with the tree board and the appearance board. Is that correct?
Correct. And you have members that are on the appearance commission currently, then you have other folks who are serving as tree board members on this other side. We would have to address both boards to figure out who would like to move forward under this combined setup. So there is a step that we would have to still do to figure out who's going to be the members, because
Okay.
currently you have members on both boards. So I think it's 7 members, if I'm not mistaken. To fill those 7 members, we have to figure out who of those 7 will be serving in that role.
Wait then to do that. I think maybe it might be smart to wait to fill any vacancies till we see who is wanting to move forward in
And
the
we can
new.
reach out to
Okay.
find out.
Still
Okay.
have 15 total? on
No.
the 2? Okay, how many do you have now?
Thank goodness.
What, talking about currently?
Currently on both boards.
Currently, there are 7 and 7, but I think there are 2 vacancies with tree board, if I'm not mistaken. So the ideal is to not go back to if you're going to recombine, not go back to the 15, because it's a tough board to keep together. But 7, and just you have to figure out who's going to want to serve on the dual roles.
So then we just need a motion to, for the appearance and tree boards to be recombined as presented in the proposed language. Do I hear a motion for that?
Ms. Mayor, I make the motion that we recombine the tree board as written.
And Mayor Talley, if we also could request an effective date for the merger, be included in the motion, so we have direction moving forward with the 2 boards trying to combine them. That would be helpful.
I'll amend my motion to be effective April 1st, 2022.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. The Planning Board of Adjustment vacancy. The City Council will consider the filling of the current vacancy on the Planning Board and Board of Adjustment with one of the following applicants. We've got Melissa Clay Barnes, Chanel Harvey, Keith Michaels, Emily Odell, John Wooten, and Jim Young. Now, I want to make sure that all of the council members got all of these, because on the version that I got was missing one. I just want to make sure everybody was considered. Did everybody get every applicant? Is there anyone here tonight that would like to speak that is one of these members, Melissa, Chanel, Keith, Emily, John, or Jim? Yes. I'm Melissa Clay Barnes. Oh, okay. Melissa, if you would like to come up to the podium. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you'd like to serve on the planning board.
Sure. Hi, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name is Melissa Clay Barnes. I live on Providence Road here in Graham. I've been here for 5 years. I have a master's degree in planning from Chapel Hill. I moved here when I went to grad school. I took the Part 4 bus into Chapel Hill to go to class, and recently, I've been hired to a consulting firm based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. But because of the pandemic, I'm going to be able to stay here. And so I thought a good way for me to use this degree besides for my income would be within my community. And so I would be honored to share my resources and my knowledge about planning. In my work, I focus on freight transportation planning, but in my graduate studies, I looked at land use, housing, waste, utilities, all of that. So I know how those things all play together. I think with folks being able to work remotely, Graham is particularly situated to leverage its offerings of affordable housing and a good community for those who don't necessarily have to live in a big city. So anyway, I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know that I'm here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Chanel Harvey, is she here? Keith Michaels.
Madam Mayor, how are you today?
Good.
Thank you for having me.
good.
My name is Keith Michaels. I've been a Graham resident for about 9 years now. I want to say that I moved down from Chicago 9 years ago and fell in love with Graham as a small town. I mean, when you go down Main Street, you see how Graham is, and I'd like to, preserve that for the future. I have 3 young children, and I plan to be in Graham a long time. As for my experience, I don't have the same experience that, some of these other candidates may have, but I have a love for Graham as it is, and I'd like to see it stay that way. Thank you for consideration.
Thank you so much. Emily Odell. John Wooten.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is John Wooten. I live at 387 Carolina Circle. My wife and I, my family moved here 22 years ago. We've been residents ever since and have loved living here. We've seen a lot of changes in the time that we've been here, a lot of good things, and some not so stellar. But one thing that's been amazing and encouraging to me is that with all the changes that have taken place in Graham has managed to retain its unique character, its personality, its vitality. Every time I go out and about, come back home, it inevitably occurs to me that I get to live in Graham. This is a fantastic place.
Couldn't agree with you more.
And so I would be honored to serve on the planning board. I think I can contribute helping Graham grow in an orderly, responsible manner, a manner that benefits both citizenry and business and government, and at the same time help Graham to maintain that unique charm and personality that we know and love so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Graham's a special place. And Jim Young, I think he,
Only got that he
Yeah.
withdrew from the council
Right.
position, not the
right.
board position.
So at this time, I would appreciate everybody that submitted their application and their willingness to serve. We will have more commission seats coming open. I think even next month, right? So I encourage anyone that maybe wasn't picked this time, please let Darby know that you're still interested and you'll stay on the list to be picked from. So at this time, I'd like to entertain nominations to be considered on the Planning Board of Adjustments. I need a motion for a nomination.
Madam Mayor, I move to nominate John Wooten for the Planning Board and Board of Adjustments.
Do I hear a second?
I'd second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Again, please submit your applications for any upcoming vacancies that we're going to have. In regards to item number 5, the rezoning of North Maple and West Market Street, the planning board has requested to table this item until March the 8th. So we will go past that unless you, Justin, do you have anything that you want to speak to about that?
No, ma'am. I think the applicant is working on a plan that's more palatable for the city. So
Awesome.
I expect we'll see something that will hopefully work a little bit better for everybody at the next month.
Okay, on to item number 6. This is vision clearance, fences and walls. Justin, if you could please give a presentation of this.
Mayor, if you could, just take a motion on
We
it.
need to make a motion to table.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Item number 5, I make a motion that we table item number 5, the rezoning of 302 North Maple Street, 207, 203, and 213 West Market Street until the March, well, yeah, March,
March.
no, it can't be March 8th then, right?
Yeah.
Okay, to the March 8th city council meeting. Do I hear a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 6, Justin, if you'll address this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is a proposed text amendment. We've proposed the language to create standards for fencing and walls. These are currently lacking in the development ordinance completely. This amendment would actually just define fences and walls, and it would set fence types, heights, locations without requiring anybody to actually apply for a permit. But it would give staff some sort of teeth if ever there needed to be enforcement on a fence. So instances where that might happen would be, say, if a fence is made of pallets or junk, or if it's within a sight distance triangle where people can't see around it. This would allow staff to actually point to something in development ordinance and ask people just to move it or change the fencing type. So we are trying to allow as much flexibility as we can, but we're also trying to limit, for instance, large privacy fences in front yards, things like that. So we think we've got some good language here. I hope the council's had a chance to review it, and I welcome any comments.
So I was reading through it, and one of the questions that I had is, if you have a wrought iron fence that you can clearly see through, that would be allowed to go all the way up to the corner of the lot. Is that correct?
There are certain restrictions on how far back from the right of way or from. So it can't be over 4 feet tall within 20 feet of the intersection of a right of way line or street or non-residential driveway or any intersection of a street or a driveway or railroad. So provided they meet that condition, then yes, it could go all the way up to the front property line, but not be over 4 feet tall.
Where does the 20 feet, I get that for a, there was a situation on the corner of Providence and Washington where Main turns into Providence Street, and somebody bought the lot beside it there on the corner and built I think I want to say it was maybe 10 feet tall. And you couldn't see around there to make a right turn. So I totally get that this is needed. I understand that. But I think, a wrought iron fence that you can clearly see through is typically, property line to property line. And it's not 20 feet back up in their yard, and that would look a little weird. If it's 20 feet back up in their yard.
So even a fence that you can see through can still provide a visual barrier to be able to see around it, especially for motorists trying to see pedestrians coming around a corner. So that's where we came from as far as that goes for the sight triangles. And that only applies to the sight triangles. That's where the 20 feet comes back. So it's not a 20-foot fence setback. It's 20 feet to keep them out of the sight triangles from the intersection right away. clear as mud, right?
I mean, I just I don't see that that's a problem with wrought iron fencing. I
So-
do
so
see
we
that
could
that's a
certain-
problem with, if you have like the little, like even chain link, you can somewhat see through. But if you put the little slats down in it, you can't.
That's
And
right.
so if it's opaque, I totally get that. But I do think,
So what if we just made an amendment and included some language that if it's over 50% transparent or less than 50% opaque, then it can go all the way to the property line without height limitation.
well, I don't think the wrought iron fences are 10 foot tall that I know of.
They wouldn't normally be, some of the historic ones around maybe like a old hospital or penitentiary might be, but
So I don't, I have a wrought iron fence around my house particularly, and I just think if you put it at 20 feet back, it would look very weird going through the middle of the yard.
well, that's what I'm
And then-
saying. It's
And then
not,
like at the back of the yard, at the back of a particular yard, I have a swimming pool in my backyard, so you're required to have by insurance, we have a wrought iron fence that's
that's right.
maybe 10 foot tall, but you know, if that, I guess I don't want to create, this is new language and we just want to be very careful when we create language that we are thinking of everything, like the insurance company, if you have a pool, requires you to have a certain height fence.
That's right. And just to be clear, in the vision clearance part, which is what we're talking about here, it says, except within the downtown area, there should be no fence, wall, shrubbery, or other obstructions to vision over 4 feet in height that shall be permitted within 20 feet of the intersection of right-of-way lines of streets and driveways or an intersection. So the intersection of right-of-way lines is typically into the street or at just outside the property corner. So 20 feet in is basically where your sight triangles are going to be anyway. We don't allow anything within sight triangles under our current ordinance. Under the current ordinance, it says in all use districts, no fence, wall, shrubbery, or other obstructions to vision between the heights of 3 and 16 feet should be permitted within 20 feet. So we're just saying it shouldn't be over 4 feet tall. They're saying 16 feet. Well, it's implying that 16 feet is the maximum height of a fence, which is crazy, but they're saying it shouldn't be over
Who
3
is
feet.
they? You mean,
Whoever the previous people that wrote the ordinance was for vision clearance, but we're basically allowing them an extra foot of height, basically, without changing the status quo. So we're being more flexible than what the current vision clearance actually is. We're not being more restrictive.
okay. I mean, none of that affects anybody that already has a fence. I'm just trying to
Right.
think of like, if you built a brand new house and you were going to put fencing up, it would seem odd to move the fence 20 feet back into somebody's yard.
20 feet back from the intersection of right-of-way lines.
But I mean, people build their house on the corner lots. I mean, I
Mhm.
can see how that's like
Mhm.
gonna look very strange.
Maybe. We don't get a lot of front yard fencing though, in general. It's relatively uncommon, but so I think it'll just be a handful of people that it'll apply to, but again, we can amend it like to say that, you know, based on opacity, you know, it could be all the way up to the property lines. That would be an easy change that we could make.
And the other question that I had was, in regard to, the fencing and walls for permitting for COAs, would this not be a minor?
It could be. A COA is a COA, whether it's major or minor. How the process is treated is determined by the design guidelines. So if the design guidelines say under minor works fences, then yes, it would be a minor work. If it says rear yard fences are minor, front yard fences are major, then it makes that distinguishment.
What
So,
does it say?
I don't know. I don't have it with me.
I know you're gonna ask me hard questions. But
Sorry.
no,
I
so
apologize.
basically, that process is handled through the Historic Resources Commission, through their existing design standards and would not change.
I just think 20 feet back from the intersection when it's a see-through fence is not,
Mhm.
is too much.
That's
And
fair.
I think that definitely 4-foot height on something that is opaque, that's a privacy fence is fine. I think that that's reasonable. And I think you give them up to
8.
8
So
from
should
the
we go up?
sides back.
So if it's.
So, but then let's talk about non-residential. Let's talk about businesses.
Right.
This thing about you don't want the,
Concertina wire.
is that what it is? They call it barbed wire, razor wire on the top of the fence. But what about like places that hold cars? I know that they have a requirement that you have that, but the way it was worded didn't seem like it would be allowed. So,
So the way we've got it worded now, it's fences made primarily of barbed wire. So a barbed wire fence, not a wood fence or a chain link fence that has a foot of barbed wire at the top, would be prohibited, except for the purpose of enclosing livestock. And then fences or walls topped with barbed wire and metal spikes would be prohibited in residential districts, except those serving a public institution for public safety or security purposes. And then fences constructed entirely of concertina wire.
so when you say or security purposes, you're not saying it has to be a public institution. It can be,
It could be an auto
business.
dealer, yeah.
Okay.
This is only applicable to a residential district, though, that particular subset.
okay. So I just know that, like the little car dealership that they had, not dealership, but the car holding area down by Bulla Warren, like they had to put that on there because for insurance or something.
Exactly. We tried not to restrict businesses very much at all. Most of the restrictions are relative to residential districts or to fencing that's basically composed entirely of barbed wire, concertina wire, where, I don't think that's what we really are looking for our fences.
Hmm.
But certainly a privacy fence or chain link fence with a foot of barbed wire, even 2 feet of barbed wire on top would be allowed under this ordinance.
And the other thing is the nonconformities.
Okay.
Fences or walls that were installed prior to the adoption of this ordinance, other than those that constitute a nuisance or public safety risk, shall be deemed non-conforming and may remain as long as they are kept and maintained in accordance with the ordinance. However, upon cessation of any principal use for a period of 180 days, or upon damage or demolition of more than 50% of the fence or wall, a non-conforming fence or wall shall be brought into full compliance of this ordinance. Now, everybody has their interpretation of what 180 days lapsed is, but if there's a fence there and that business goes out of business for a period of time because they filed bankruptcy or whatever, I'm going to interpret that as being, you're not going to go make that guy change his fence when he reopens that business.
Typically not. A change of use likely would be more where we would come from.
Well,
So
let me make it clear. I am not in favor of you making him tear his fence down when that business reopens. So I don't know how you need to word it, but
I think we can make that
something that
a
is
city
existing.
policy, or we could say that if it's resumed by the same business as ceased operation previously or something like that.
It's just like the sign thing.
I understand.
When we changed the sign ordinance and said going forward, we're going to have monument signs, then any existing sign that we had, anytime it tried to get changed out, so you had an existing sign pole there, and you tried to get it changed out. Oh, no, it doesn't comply with the new ordinance. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not what we were doing.
So we're not trying to
We were
amortize.
saying if you're going to have a new sign, it's going to be a monument.
Right.
You're not going to prohibit, businesses are going to change out. And they may have a lapse of 180 days in between.
Well,
And I
how
don't
about,
think
how
it's-
about we just eliminate that last sentence? Would that work?
It makes me happier.
Okay, I like happy.
We are pro-business here. The last paragraph, while we're not required to have a zoning permit, all fences and walls not exempt from this ordinance shall comply with all the standards. Any fence or wall installed in any manner that does not comply with this ordinance shall be subject to civil penalties in accordance with this ordinance as applicable. Now,
And
is
that's not saying we're gonna go hunt them down and start charging them civil penalties. It's just, it gives us a mechanism if we have somebody who refuses to work with us on trying to get it in compliance.
okay.
We have to have something to cover the city, legally.
Can you check to see if the permitting for the historic district would be fencing was minor or major?
I can check. Yeah, this won't impact it either way. The process is already set. So if we want to modify that process, we have to do it through the Historic Resources Commission. Because that's part of their design guidelines.
Okay, so the changes in regards to, how would you change it in regards to are you agreeable to the wrought iron fencing being allowed all the way up to the?
I think instead of just saying wrought iron, we should say
I think you used-
fencing that's less than
Right.
50% opaque
Okay,
up to the property line.
Bobby, did you have any concerns about this?
No, you addressed it.
Oh, thank you. Joey, did you have any concerns?
Hey, I like the 50% opaque. That would solve the vision problem and people wanting to do their own thing with their fence, so.
So, Justin, I know this is a fairly new ordinance. I know we had an ordinance somewhat before, but we didn't have an ordinance in regards to, I remember calling Frankie about an issue where people had put pallets up as a fence. And I'm like, we can't have pallets.
Right.
The neighbors were all calling and complaining. And then somebody used headboards as a fence.
Right.
So obviously, if you don't have an ordinance, then
Correct.
to say that you can't use debris as a fence, then obviously this will cover that now going forward. But what would be helpful to us, I think, as council members, is you're the person that is, the first line of contact and communication with residents. And whenever we pass something like this, it would be helpful to me. I know for myself, and I assume the other council members, for you to come back to us and say, hey, when we wrote this, know what the intent was, but it's not working out that way. And we're, some of the things that maybe I didn't think about,
Right.
and this business wants to be able to put this fence here and he can't really do it 20 feet back or whatever the situation is. Or he needs it to be higher because of insurance purposes or whatever. If you could give us that feedback, because I
Of
don't
course.
like hearing that from the residents. I'd prefer to hear it from the staff
Uh-huh.
that, hey, just want to let you know, we are having to deny this and this and this, and maybe it's not working out exactly as we, because this is a technique to write legislation, right? And we don't always think of everything that could possibly come up, so.
The good news is we're not requiring permits other than a COA, so there won't be any denials by staff.
No, but you'll hear from people if they
We-
put
we-
something up
will,
and then
yeah.
you go out there and cite them and ask them to take it down and they just spent $5,000.
Yeah, we're gonna try not to make Jenny's life miserable, so.
So how do we need to word this motion?
You could just say you could make a motion and you could state that it's with the comments raised in the discussion or something as enumerated in your discussion. Or you could be very specific and say with the amendment to section 10.55 to include that fences shall be less than 50% opaque all the way to the property line. If over 50% opaque, then they should be no more than 4 feet tall and 20 feet from the right of way line. I would go with the enumerated.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I have one question.
Yes.
It, even though we're getting ready to adopt this, the covenants and subdivisions would supersede this, right?
If they're more restrictive, yes.
Okay.
That's a great question.
See,
I like it.
things we don't think of, right?
Madam Mayor, could I propose that we deny the amendment as currently written, but it be amended with all the comments, the recommendations that were made and sent back to the planning board so that then they could read it, and if they, use other sets of eyes to review whatever their objections were to the originally worded amendment.
Yeah.
That had them deny it. I feel that it's an opportunity.
Is there any rush to
if-
have it passed this?
Well, if I could courteously disagree, the planning board is overwhelmed right now, and they really don't need more things kicked back to them. Their next meeting, my pile on my desk is like literally that tall. I'm speaking for me. So, yeah, I'm not sure that it requires more planning board review. I think the planning board had a very good chance to look at it. And I don't think these changes are substantive enough to require going back through the beginning of the process again.
I would just like to point out that this is a public hearing, so before any motion, second, and vote happens, please be sure to open it.
Well, is anyone here to, I need a motion, well, is anyone here who'd like to speak on the proposed text amendment regarding fences? I doubt anybody can. Oh, sure, Tom. I love it.
I have a couple of questions. I guess my fundamental first question is, what is the origin or basis of why this ordinance is being proposed? Is there some issue or issues that have come up that necessitate something?
We've had issues with people using, like the mayor said, pallets for fencing. We have also, as staff, faced several questions about, can I put a fence up? If so, what are the restrictions on my fencing? And we can't give them any sort of answer because there are no restrictions. There's nothing in the code. So right now, the way you could read it, it would interpret that a fence could be up to 16 feet tall with no restrictions on what it's made of. And so we're trying to define a fence, first of all, define a wall, and then determine where it's appropriate to put these items and what they should be made of when they're put out. So similar to any other jurisdiction that you'll find, we're just trying to kind of come into the 21st century here.
And I guess my other question, Mayor, is, and I think it was Councilman Chin mentioned, but in other words, as I recall reading through it, I don't have it in front of me, but it was somewhat lengthy. And my question is, has it been reviewed and approved by the attorneys as meeting all the legal requirements that it would need to be?
I don't know. It's been advertised, so it meets that legal requirement.
Has the attorney reviewed it?
Has the city's attorney internally reviewed it either for its structure, its specifics, any comparison? I know there were some suggestions of comparisons with other jurisdictions. I would just caution, Mayor, that in the past, there have been occasions when it appeared that the council was being presented by things written by various departments that had not been cleared by the legal department. And it seems to me when you're dealing with new ordinances and new restrictions, such as this, that ought to be a standard part of the operation.
I thought it was. I mean, I agree with you. I think it should be. That's why we have you on retainer, right?
So anyway, that's a concern generic, that I'm concerned when we see these things coming from individual departments. And when there's not an indication, and I didn't see it in the packet, that it had been reviewed, approved, or any suggestions from a legal perspective it seems to me, as several of you have alluded to, that's when you get in trouble. When you're not anticipating something that at least hopefully a good lawyer would note ahead of time, hey, what about this situation or that? We need to include that contingency. So that's just a
Anyone else that would like to speak from the public? If no one else, need a motion and second to close the public hearing.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So just what does council want to do? Send this back to planning, make a motion to send it back to planning with the new wording?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we send it back to the planning board for its review and to our attorneys to make sure that our language is
Compliant and compliant.
yes, ma'am.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries. We'll go back to the planning department with the new wording. Justin, if you could,
Board.
planning board?
Yeah.
Sorry, planning board.
He said planning board, not planning. Motion was for the planning board.
Right.
Okay.
What did I say?
Planning department.
Oh, sorry, for the.
Technically, it is going back to the planning.
Right, to the
department. It's
plan,
gonna go to
well, to the planning board, if you could please send that back to the planning board and with the new language
Okay.
and have them review it. Agenda item number 7.
7, 8, and 9 were all requested to be tabled by the planning board. So staff would request that the city council make a motion to table those to the March 8th meeting.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we table 7, 8, and 9
To the March 8th.
to the March 8th meeting.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 10. Justin,
Yes,
Planning
ma'am.
Director.
So we have here a request for another text amendment to add cryptocurrency, virtual currency, and blockchain mining facilities to our development ordinance. They are currently not in there. They're not addressed in any form. And so this amendment would seek to add it to the permitted uses table, and staff actually has consulted with the development community on this one, specifically the Bitcoin and blockchain mining facility that's in Graham, to try to craft language that will work for both the city and also the development community while still protecting the residents of the city of Graham. So we do feel that this ordinance is a good one for the city, and it's encouraging to the development community, and I believe we do have people here to speak on this tonight.
So we're going to open the meeting for a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on the proposed text amendment changes to the development ordinance regarding cryptocurrency?
I just have a question first, Madam Mayor. Is the language that is before the council the same that was before the planning board? Or
No,
it's been changed?
it has been changed, hasn't it?
Yes.
And do we have any idea what the planning board's view of the changes?
No, we do not, but that will be discussed.
Yeah,
It's
we'll-
already on my list.
All right.
Yeah, we were gonna get back to the whole attorney and planning board thing. So.
Okay, go ahead.
Mayor, if I could-
Sure.
That's a little late reading for you guys today. Thank you. We're not gonna go through everything. We'd be here all night. But you got some reference material. We're gonna go over the top. I'm giving you all. Yes, sir. So one of the first things that I want to do is thank Justin. I know he takes a lot of lumps for the stuff that he's doing, but when I first got the proposed language, it was a mess, to be totally transparent.
And he was more than receptive as we went through probably a 3-day dialogue of changes, proposals, and things that would make sense not only for the mining community, myself included, as well as the city of Graham and the residents. We could make a proposal that was good for everybody.
Could you state your name and your
Oh, sorry.
address? No, it's just for the clerk. Thank you so much.
No worries, Gerald Wilkie, and I own and operate HM Tech at 426 South Maple, and I live over at 1822 Cherry Lane in Haw River. So one of the first things we wanted to do that we started out was to address some of the points we've got in here. So there's a lot of bad press, I guess is the best way to say it, about Bitcoin mining, where we talk about how inefficient it is and how much energy it consumes, and the energy rates are going to go up for everybody in the city, and we're not going to have any power, we're going to have blackouts. That, not to use a overused statement, but that's that's fake news if we could use that term. So what I want to start with is there's a little bit of fluff in the beginning, but this page here where we talk about energy consumption, and then we're going to bring it home local and how it makes the impact here. So when we talk about the amount of mining energy that Bitcoin uses, everybody talks about it's dirty energy, it's tremendous amount of power, and those things just aren't factual. When we talk about the total energy consumption globally, there's 154,000 terawatt hours of total energy generated worldwide. 50,000 terawatt hours are lost due to inefficiencies. So heat, transmission, transformation, we lose 50,000 terawatt hours. Bitcoin mining as a whole uses 220 terawatt hours, or 0.14%. So literally a drop in the bucket. If you take the combined power that we use in the United States on Christmas lights, it's more than we use globally for Bitcoin mining. So what does that mean for us in Graham? Exactly nothing. So we're a regulated state, and that means that Duke Energy creates the rates for us here in Graham, the folks in Charlotte, the folks in Boone, the folks on the coast. So what one province or one area uses won't impact the others because the State Utility Commission actually sets the rate. So if we decide to use 1,000 megawatts in Graham, nobody else is impacted because the Utility Commission sets the rate, tells Duke what they can charge us, so our rates stay the same. It's one of the benefits of being a regulated state. So we can mark that one off the list as a concern. The next concern was electronic hazardous waste, or e-recycling. We got together some good language on that, making sure that we use ISO certified recycling facilities, which we already do actually. And then nuisance is it's probably the biggest one. So lots of noise is created in this process. Fans, electrical equipment, HVAC. And when we look at new facilities, we crafted fair legislation, or fair text amendment, I guess is the right word, that basically says, we would in the future look for companies to come in to build facilities to do so in a non-residential area, or if it is with an adjoining parcel that's residential, we would have a barrier or a buffer between the facility as well as the residents or schools, daycares, etc. So bottom line, we got what I think is a good text amendment. I'm sure it's going to go back to planning for final approval, but I think that the cooperation that we had was symbolic of some pretty good things to come. So thank you, Justin. Thank you to the council and Mayor Talley.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
I will say thank you so much for you guys reaching out and meeting with Justin. I think this is how good legislation is drafted and created, is reaching out to the stakeholders and actually involving them in the process. And we get a better end result. And that's really our best practices. So I had a question in regards to the 1,000 feet from a residential structure. That seems like quite a bit of buffer. Even I don't know of anything that has buffers that large. And I go by your place all the time on Maple Street and nobody even knows you're there. So when you say sound, I've never heard that we've ever had a complaint about sound. I'm just curious as to what was the reasoning behind the 1,000-foot barrier?
So we made it that way. So we crafted our facility with the idea that we had neighbors to the north of our parcel. And we used our intake or air intake or makeup air on the north side of the building, exhaust up, and then interstate and exhaust to the west or to the south. I'm sorry. So we did that on purpose. All the noise goes back toward the interstate and blends with the interstate road noise. So our neighbors very rarely, unless we've got a boat loose or a piece of equipment that's malfunctioning, they don't know we're there. So we don't get complaints. We try to be good neighbors.
And I could reference a Bitcoin mining facility by Virginia Beach, Virginia, that's actually bankrupt out of business now. We're not good neighbors. These things create the larger they are, they create a tremendous amount of noise. Originally, Justin suggested, I think, 200 feet.
Yeah.
And I told him that's not good enough because not everybody's going to be thoughtful in the way that they construct or craft their business or be concerned with the adjoining parcels. And that's where we said there's got to be some give and take. So the new business coming in has to be considerate. In my opinion, in industrial parcels, I-1, I-2 shouldn't be near residential parcels. They're not good bedfellows. So in the case that it happens to be that parcel is what they got, then there should be some restrictions to keep those residents safe.
Okay. And I think there was a question about these facilities shall be required to develop and purchase sufficient new renewable energy to offset 100% of the electricity consumed by the cryptocurrency mining operation. To meet this condition, the cryptocurrency mining operation must be able to establish that their actions will introduce new renewable energy onto the electrical grid beyond what would have developed otherwise.
Yep, we struck that and we replaced it with some more vague language so that the developing company and the council could come together on what would be good common ground. Because if you were to tell a potential miner that wanted to come to Graham, say, hey, you're going to have to do 100% of watt for watt what you consume and do an investment in renewable, they would never come here because that expense would be astronomical. So in North Carolina, you get about 500 kilowatts per acre for solar. So for instance, our facility is 11 megawatts.
Right.
So just the land purchase would make it prohibitive, much less the solar.
So Justin, why is that still in our,
I'm not sure. You must have some old language. The newer language is that it
the one
they
off
offset
the,
a mutually agreed upon percentage of electricity consumed by the mining operation. And that would be established during the conditional zoning process.
maybe the old one that was in the original Dropbox, but I thought I got it off the agenda packet. Sorry. What do you got?
On 10.291.4, section C, is that where you're at?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
100% of the electricity consumed.
I apologize for that. I'm not sure how that got in there, but I'll read it for you. It says these facilities should be
Oh.
required to develop or purchase sufficient new renewable energy to offset a mutually agreed upon percentage of the electricity that's consumed by the cryptocurrency mining operation. To meet this condition, the cryptocurrency mining operation must be able to establish their actions will introduce new renewable energy onto the electrical grid beyond what would have been developed otherwise. This amount should be determined in the conditional zoning process, should be a condition of approval by the developer and the city. Renewable energy offsets should be in place and operational within 24 months of a certificate of occupancy, or the developer shall commit to funding equal to 125% of the agreed upon offset that would be deposited into a renewable energy account with the city that would be earmarked for future solar, wind, water recycling, city recycling, or other similar programs from the city of Graham.
Yep.
Are you
So-
satisfied with that language?
Yeah, that's the language we
That's
came
not
up
the
with.
language that
Yeah, I
I,
apologize. I'm not sure
That's
how that
okay.
happened.
Yep,
So
but I'm looking out for you going,
I
are you
appreciate that.
sure that you're okay with this? Because this seems a little,
yeah.
Aggressive, yeah. So and the other thing I want to do is draw your attention to the global Bitcoin mining mix. When we talk about sustainable energy, this page right here in your packet. So as an industry, Bitcoin mining has the highest percentage of renewable mix already of any other industry in the world. We have a higher renewable mix than most countries do as a global enterprise. We look for renewable energy. So 66% of Bitcoin mining is done with renewable energy. So this is already an industry standard for us that we look for. So when we go to find new facilities or new places where we're going to set up shop, we look for renewable already. And if it's not there, typically in deregulated states, we'll buy carbon credits. Or if carbon credits aren't available, then we'll work with local governance to jump on and get.
I have no idea what you're saying, and I'll just be completely honest with you.
We like to offset our use.
I thought what Bitcoin did was what my son talks to me about. So when he was saying about how much energy users they were and all the recycling, and I'm like, what is going on? So when you say you need to find renewable energy, tell me what you look for, like what is here in Graham that makes you a Graham attract?
So before we got institutionalized and kind of grew up, we were more of a, nerd money, for lack of a better word. We were just kind of a group of enthusiasts that did this. We didn't think about things like renewable energy or carbon credits, right? For us, I lived in Burlington at the time, and we looked for gaps on the electrical grid where there was stranded power, or let's say a factory that went out of business. So Duke Energy may have a substation that could supply 100 megawatts, but no more factories. So that energy is then stranded. So we would go and look for that and then build accordingly. So for North Carolina, again, because we are regulated, the Utility Commission dictates to Duke Energy what they can and cannot generate. So currently, only 37% of our energy is renewable in North Carolina, because that's what Duke produces, and we don't have a choice. So if we wanted to add carbon offsets, we would need to buy what's called a block certificate from Duke, or invest in solar, wind, hydro, et cetera, at the local level.
So have you seen the final written
Yep.
ordinance? Okay. The other section that I thought maybe you changed it, Justin, was verification must be provided that all electronic waste generated at the cryptocurrency mining operation will be handled by a DEQ licensed electronic waste recycling firm.
That's still in there.
Okay, are you okay with that?
Yep, actually, we have one in North Carolina, Raleigh. It's called Blue Sky. They're ISO certified, same type of thing, where they properly dispose of e-waste. Because the last thing you want is for those heavy metals to wind up in a landfill. So they need to be properly recycled.
So you just go through servers that fast and
Well,
they,
it's the scale. I think you should come visit. We're talking about thousands of servers, thousands upon thousands. Like our facility is 11 megawatts and is considered small by current scale. We're planning another 100 meg facility in Montana currently, where we'll have tens of thousands of servers. So if you look at a 3 to 5 year life cycle of these machines with a 3% maybe annual failure rate, you have a tremendous amount of electronic hardware that's trash. And it does need to be properly taken care of.
and so someone was trying to explain to me that one household is like 10,000, right, of these to make a megawatt. Is that right?
So your house probably has a 200 amp panel, like a main panel, that's 220 volt or 4 kilowatts. A megawatt is a factor of 1,000 more than that. And we operate in the tens or hundreds of megawatts. So it's substantial. It is substantial power usage, but to put it in perspective, the new Toyota plant that's going in Greensboro is 1,500 megawatts. So there's lots of industry that do use more power than we do. We just are the new kid on the block that, the news likes to kick around a little.
That's okay. Well, we love having you in Graham.
We're glad to be here.
People are always excited when I tell them that we have a Bitcoin operation here. And they're like, where's that? I was like, it's very,
We hide.
yeah, just that little, and you are hidden.
Yep.
You're hidden right there. So people don't even know you're there. Most people.
That was the original goal.
May I
So,
ask a question?
Yes.
How is Bitcoin mining any different from a data server or warehouse or whatever?
It's pretty similar. The difference is a Bitcoin miner is just a computer that's purpose built only to operate on the Bitcoin network, whereas a server that goes into an AWS or an Amazon Web Services is a traditional server that can do many different things. Bitcoin mining servers are designed what's called application specific integrated circuit, or an ASIC. They do one job. In this case, they're purpose built to do Bitcoin mining.
So it's purpose-built servers,
Yes.
but it's still a server farm. you might
Yes.
say.
Yep. Exactly right.
But it's designed with a specific purpose of doing Bitcoin.
Yes.
So other than that aspect, it's still a computer server. It's a server.
Yeah. Yep.
So I just want, why are we focusing on Bitcoin mining separate from if somebody wanted to come and build
IBM.
a data warehouse
Mhm.
here that has as many servers as you
So-
currently would have, that you have in your.
So this is,
Bitcoin
yep,
facility.
that's good. It's a great question. So that's one thing Justin and I talked about at length, and some of the language in there exempts what's called a container farm. There's some folks that look for stranded power and they're not partners with the community, which is how we tried to draft this piece of text. So the container farmers will come in literally with connexes like ocean cruiser containers that are modified to hold Bitcoin servers. They'll plug into the power grid, they'll operate, take the available power, and the land, it's an eyesore for sure. And then they're gone in 2-3 years. So the way we crafted the legislation was so that the companies that come in are of a different mindset. So they're here for the long term. They want to build partnerships, lasting relationships versus an in and out. So we would rather have, because power is a finite resource. So if Duke says, hey, we've got 50 megawatts available in Graham, we would want folks that are going to be here for a long time to take that power and, displace another company that might want to come in. So we're being a little bit choosier, I guess.
But couldn't the language be crafted such that it addresses data warehouse or, in general, but then some specific language to preclude what you were talking about? If somebody brings in a Bitcoin, system that's in the Connex versus writing a specific ordinance for the Bitcoin industry.
I don't think they're on the order of magnitude that a blockchain mining facility is on, just in general. I can't think of any data processing center that's anywhere close to what a Bitcoin mining facility would be.
No, Mike, some of the big players, IBM, Microsoft, some of their largest data centers, Microsoft just opened one in Casper, Wyoming, that is the largest of its kind ever, and it was 300 megawatts. By comparison, Windstone, which is owned by Riot Blockchain in Rockdale, Texas, is 300 meg currently with plans to go to over 1,000. So the Bitcoin miners dwarf traditional data centers in both terms of size, scale, and power consumption. And the investment is on fire right now. Everybody wants to get in. So wherever there's stranded power, you'll see them pop up.
What precludes someone from setting up a big mining operation in the garage?
Power constraints, really. So you might be able to get 3 or 4 of these in your house because the power demand is so high. The other problem with that is then the fire department would be called. Your house isn't wired for that level of demand, 24/7 operation. It's wired for intermittent operation at a lower amperage. So there's been lots of news stories about people that try to put one in their garage and they burn their house down. So hopefully, folks don't try that.
Joey, do you have any comments?
How long have you been in Graham?
So I started in my attic, not my garage, many years ago before we had these type of miners. But that was early, it's actually probably 2013. We've done it professionally at the location we're in since 2016. So we're actually one of the oldest continuous operations in the United States, maybe North America as a whole. So we've been at it a pretty good while.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank
Is there
you.
anyone else that would like to, please?
My name's,
State your name and your address.
My name is Ralph Anthony Carcassi Jr. I live at 207 East Stiller Street, Mebane, North Carolina. I'm the owner, one of the owners of Rad Industries and Rad Range. Well, one's in Burlington, one's here in Graham by next to Dottie's. And also one of the business partners of Gerald Wilkie at Hashmaster Tech. My fear has gotten really bad lately, especially with the county coming after Rad Range over the noise ordinance where we let people shoot, but also now coming after cryptocurrency. I don't see how it's a small business owner's responsibility to have Duke Power, who's a multi-billion-dollar company, subsidize them in some piece of legislation. Where did this come from? We're small business owners. I'm a small business owner. So is he. I'm sure there's a lot of us here. Why should we subsidize power when a multi-billion-dollar company like Duke Power has stockholders that get rich? Someone please explain how that's our problem. It's hard enough for small business owners today, especially with the COVID, the mask mandates, and everything else going on. Why should any small business owner be responsible for that? Where is this legislation coming from? I've had to deal with zoning before, especially at Rad Industries. Okay? Because what is manufacturing considered? Subway manufactures you a sandwich, so does Pizza Hut. We manufacture firearms. Don't get hung up on the language. It ain't 60-ton presses. The last person, Nathan Page, that was here, I had to deal with him. Okay? And it's the same thing over and over in Graham. The money that our small businesses generate, 2% comes back to this county. So again, it's always on the small business owner, every single time. We want change in this county. The small business owners, Main Street wants change. That's why we put people in the office recently. We want change. We're tired of getting stuck with the bill. This legislation is bad all around. You're picking out one aspect of an industry. That's not fair to us. What about IBM, Google, all these other ones that are coming here? Housing markets are going up, rents are going up because they're all moving here. And who's that affect? It affects us as well. But these companies, they get tax breaks. They get incentives to move here. And it affects the small guys. Yeah, we make money. It just takes us a lot longer to do it. A lot longer. So if you've been in small business, you know what I'm talking about. We ain't making 50, 60, 80% profits. We make about 10%. And that's after we pay all our bills and are up till 11, 12 o'clock at night. So again, I don't see how this legislation could do anything where we have to subsidize money out of our pockets to subsidize power for Duke Power that should be able to provide nuclear, wind, solar, hydroelectric that they already are supposed to be doing. Why are we doing their job for them? So that's about it.
So I had, my initial thought was exactly what your thought was. Where is this coming from? I think one of the things when I reached out to Justin was, well, we just want to make sure that the recycling is taken care of, but you are a responsible business owner. You're not,
Correct.
you wouldn't have any problem with language in regards to an ordinance about that. And I think like in regards to the renewable energy, I thought they had worked it out for the new language. Are you in favor of that or no?
I personally am not, because like I said, at the end of the day, it's only a matter of time till they come after Rad Industries and say, hey, you guys are using, you know, let's say we open our manufacturing facility, we run 24/7 and we're making firearms. Oh, okay, now it's gonna be like, okay, well, you gotta buy a 0.5 megawatt of solar. It's only gonna be the next step. Like this is just, it's trickle down. It's kind of like the attack on the Second Amendment. You start one piece and then it goes to the next one and the next one and the next one, and it just trickles down. It's just, it's like this carbon stuff. It's like, why not invest in nuclear power plants? Why don't let Duke Power fund that? Why does it have to be on the small business owner? Answer that one question for me. Why does a small business owner
I
have to endure
can't
more?
because I didn't write the legislation.
Right.
I'm like Bobby. I don't understand why the planning department did that, but I can certainly direct. Justin can maybe talk to us a little bit about what his concerns are.
Yeah, the planning department is supposed to be for planning infrastructure to see, not power management and power. That goes to Duke Power because we're in a regulated state, like Gerald just said.
Well, even when it was brought up to me, I think my initial comment is, why do we care how much power they use?
We're paying for it.
Right.
We're paying for it.
I direct my question to Justin because
So
what-
this language was crafted with your business partner in tandem, in agreement. And the idea behind it, we're not regulating power usage. What we're doing is we're saying, look, if you're going to use all this power on, you know, Graham City network, Duke's network, whatever, What we're saying is, hey, put into a renewable energy fund so that we can use that for local programs for other things. So, and it's specific to this type of development because you guys use orders of magnitude of power compared to what other people do.
So this money would go into a fund somewhere to be dedicated for something else,
Specifically for renewable energy.
for renewable energy.
Would be conditional zoning, right? So there's two choices. One is you put up in conjunction with the city council, a conversation that you would have, maybe you put a meg in, maybe you put 2 megs of solar in, whatever it might be, whatever you come to terms with. And the other thing that does is tie you to the city. You're making an investment in the place that you're coming to do business because again, like we're looking to put up a 100 meg facility in Montana. And, going in there, there's conditions and partnerships we're gonna have to do with the local city because we're investing in that community as we build.
Right.
How much is that?
Community too.
How much is that you're investing? That's my question.
Yeah.
For
How
his
much
existing,
additional
his existing business, Justin, what are you looking to get in this fund?
We're not specifying. We're saying that it's an agreed upon amount between the city council and the business owner. So whatever you guys feel mutually is fair.
Well, what, I mean,
New construction, yeah, we're not doing anything to them. I mean, we're trying to make new industry come in, be responsible so that we don't get these huge farms of blockchain mining facilities with no protection for your citizens. You got a lot of voters, they're not just business people, you got residents too. So we have to consider what the impacts on them are gonna be. So
but
we're trying to look at it
how much are
holistically.
you, in your mind, are you looking to contribute to this fund for renewable energy?
So if I was opening a new facility here in Graham, and we had that conversation, I would believe that somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 to 2% would be fair. So 1 meg for every 100. In the case of, smaller facilities, it's a smaller investment. Because there's not an investment. And the other thing is sharing part of the proceeds, right? Because the amount of money that Bitcoin mining makes is astronomical. It's an asset class all by itself. So the folks that are coming in here, they're looking for inexpensive power to boost their bottom line, and making investments in the community is a fair trade-off.
Are you fine with
I'm just saying without hurting local businesses. My whole thing is local businesses.
We have no intention of hurting any local business. We're trying to attract these types of businesses within fair parameters, basically for everybody.
Yeah, we were talking about how to turn this in, take the next step, would be to create the framework for an incentive package to attract Bitcoin miners.
So maybe a tech park or something like that.
That's what I'm saying. It's slippery slope and it takes a lot more work. I would say tread carefully on it. So we are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But we're not doing the wrong thing. Because that,
I can assure you that this
put on
new city
fruits.
council is very pro-business. I'm not saying that the old city council wasn't, but I'm just saying that I can speak for the people that are sitting up here. We are all very pro-business. And even if you wouldn't have shown up, even if you never had any conversation with him, I can tell you this would not have passed as it was originally written. So we're looking out for businesses. Regardless, you heard me tell Justin, when we have new language and new ordinances that are being crafted, to reach out to the stakeholders that it's going to affect. I personally don't like to be blindsided by new regulations, and I own a business. I think that, people in general don't like that. Residents don't like that. They don't like to know, well, oh, I hired this fence company and now there's a new ordinance regarding a fence. And I've already built my fence and now I've got to tear my fence down, that kind of thing. And if they're not required to come get a permit, how would they know what the regulation is? They're not going to go look it up. So, it's like sometimes putting things in place, you can't think of all the actual practicalities and the implementation of it. But I assure you that the council is looking out for your business. We want you to be here in Graham. We want you to feel welcome in Graham. We want all the businesses here to feel valued and that we want them here. And if there's ever a time or a situation where you're going to the planning department and you're trying to expand or something is going and maybe the ordinances are not working for you, that's an opportunity for you to come to council. Because I remember early on, before I was ever a council member, and as a business owner, coming before a council. And all the council members said, well, I don't agree with this, but this is what the ordinance says. And I don't agree with this and this, and all 5 members didn't agree with it. And I said, you do realize you write the ordinances. So, it's like, if none of you like it,
Right.
then rewrite the ordinance so that it allows businesses to be able to operate freely and productively. I mean, obviously, we have to protect the rest of the residents that are here, but people that are operating here, you're operating your business with no detriment to any of your neighbors, no detriment to any of the citizens of Graham. And, you should be able to do so freely and not feel like anyone's coming for you or coming after you or whatever. If there's, along the same line, I get why maybe Justin was trying to put this in an ordinance because, cryptocurrency did not exist as a use 10 years ago.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just like, things that obviously it's not going to be in our ordinance books, not here, not in other places from, a lot of these ordinances were written 50 years ago. So, it's a dance. So if he's going to create something, I do want him to do that in tandem with the business owner. So, maybe if we could, I don't even know how we could legitimately pass anything tonight because I didn't get the revised
Go ahead and send it back
language.
to planning board.
I'm sorry, I
and
hate to keep doing this to you, but you need to see the new language and you didn't recommend approval based on how it was written. So I
Yeah,
feel,
send it back and we'll
Okay.
go back through and we'll bring it back.
Well, I have a statement to make. Why are we asking a business owner that invested in renewable energy? Why not something else? In all honesty, renewable energy is inefficient
It is.
So,
and it's expensive.
It is.
so the thought behind that,
With subsidies, they wouldn't be in business. So why are we asking business owners to put money into a escrow account for an industry that if it was not supported by government, it would not exist?
that's not the intent and that's not how it's written.
Well, the fact that it says he's encouraged to put in escrow money that would go into renewable energy.
Right,
If you
so
talk about
you
energy,
got to look further. So it says, including things such as wind, solar, but it also says city recycling programs. Our recycling fees are going to triple. Now, if we have this fund, we could subsidize that fund, keep the cost to taxpayers low. So there's a benefit to the city there. There's a benefit to the residents. There's a benefit to them.
How about this though? How about we be the first county and city to say we want to build a new nuclear reactor plant? Nuclear power, pound for pound, dollar for dollar is the most expedient way to make power.
Lawrence County would be better for that.
But I doubt anybody wants to live next to a nuclear power plant.
Right, and the same thing's true with these blockchain mining facilities. Nobody's going to want to live next to it.
There's the shoe that drops.
Well, I mean, your
got one
partner
right
brought it
here.
up.
Exactly.
Your partner brought this
I am.
up. So what I'm saying is I agree with him and we're trying to protect those people and we're trying to protect your business. So we're not here to attack. That's not what we're doing with this ordinance. We're here to protect your business interests, the interests of the city, the interests of the residents, all
Well,
into one.
to, what was your first name again? sir?
Rudy.
Rudy, to Rudy's point, I remember about these little sweepstakes things.
Yep.
Right.
And it all started with a little fee. And then all the cities got greedy. And then it was like $25,000 to open up a business that's not even as big as this room because everybody wanted their hand in the pocket, and they see that Bitcoin makes a lot of money and everybody
Yeah.
wants to do that. I think that's anti-American. I don't agree with it. And so I'm a little bit hesitant to try to go down that road again. So I do agree with you that it's difficult to trust government, right? And government is supposed to
I
work
don't
for
trust
us.
government.
Right.
I'll be the first one to tell you. Our rights, everybody in here, they're under siege all the time. from a company in Florida that does rare breed triggers. They're a semi-automatic trigger. The ATF says they're machine guns. They're now arresting people for them. Okay, and they, by their own definition, by their own expert witnesses, they're semi-automatic triggers. And our government is putting people, they just arrested a YouTuber for doing a promotional video with 8 counts of conspiracy. That's almost impossible to prove. But they say because he did a promotion, he's got 8 counts of conspiracy. Yeah, I don't trust the government. Nobody
just don't
should.
want,
They should be regulated and they should
yeah.
be watched.
I don't want to, I don't want us to pass something that, it's like, okay, here's a fee, and then that fee goes up, and
Yep.
then the fee goes up.
It's a
Because I
slippery
think
slope.
initially, like on those sweepstakes fees, they were just like a typical business license. I think they were $100 or something, and then they ended up being, I know in Gibsonville, I rented to somebody that had that, and I think they paid $28,000. I mean, that's just ridiculous, as opposed to somebody opening a business that has an office in it next door for $100. And then obviously they made them mad enough to where they filed a lawsuit in Raleigh, and they were found to be illegal. So all that kind of went away, and all the business licenses went away. So, when governments get greedy, and nobody had a problem paying the $100 business license, but then after that, then nobody got a business license. So in the whole state of North Carolina, they found them all to be an illegal tax.
Yep.
And I don't, I can speak for myself, and I feel I can speak for the rest of the council, that we're not, we're protectors of business, and we're not trying to, and also protectors of our residents. We're supposed to be vessels for the people. And so we're not here to mandate rules and things to any business or to any resident. Along the same lines, we just have to make sure that whatever business or resident occupies the city of Graham, that they're not doing anything that hurts their neighbor.
Correct.
Used to be a good neighbor policy years ago. So
Good neighbors all around, and that's what you want.
so let's work with Justin, let them go back to the planning board. If you're just adamant that you don't want to see any legislation, certainly bring that up to the various council members that you have here. But if you're fine with something and taking out sections that you don't agree with, please do that. And make sure that you come to the planning board to address that. Just because a staff member brings something up here does not mean that's the direction that this city is going to go. That is a suggestion from staff, and we all look at it critically as if we owned your business. And so, I do feel like the thing about recycling, but I don't know if you can if there's other ordinances that protect us to make sure that recycling is done.
Right.
I don't know that it needs to be specific to cryptocurrency. But I mean, I do think that you would agree that there's some things that we need to make sure every responsible business owner does.
Of course. I just agree with what Bob was saying. You were saying, Jennifer, where having a tax place, whatever it is, where is it going? Like you said, that's kind of unfair. Why not, like I said, let Duke Power come here and put a nuclear power plant? Well, no one wants to live that. Well, of course, no one wants to. Now the shoe drops. Where's that money going? What's that money being used for? It's just an extra tax on the small business owner.
Mhm.
So it's just more money we have to pay out, like we do for every business. So, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Yes. You'll state your name and your address, sir.
John. His hand went up first, Fletcher.
My name is John Wooten. I live at 387 Carolina Circle here in Graham. I'm coming to you tonight speaking with a bit over 25 years' experience as a network engineer. By the way, I'd love to see your facility sometime. Yeah. The last 9 of which I spent as a data center engineer for a major global financial institution. First of all, I'd like to say that I think you ought to rewrite the language in this to cover not only data centers, not only Bitcoin, but data centers in general. I worked in a data center on the east side of Greensboro that was rather large. In fact, we had 2 substations all to ourselves. There were a lot of interesting regulations that we had to deal with, not unlike what you see here. But I think we could do a better job of putting together a regulation that would cover an industry that is prime for this area. I mean, I'd like to see a lot more of that come to this area. Duke Power has one of the best energy grids in the whole country in this area. That's one of the reasons why we have so many data centers in this area. And I think we could rewrite this regulation, this ordinance, to be very inviting and very conducive to large industry, large data centers coming to this area. Second thing, I would agree that with Rudy, what he has said, I don't see why any operation like this should be giving back or putting in escrow, however you wish to describe it, why they should be putting into a fund for whatever purpose. Most of the time, you as a city council would be looking at incentives, giving incentives to a business. To me, and I haven't looked at the language as revised, but it sounds like he's being asked to give an incentive to be here. And that doesn't make much sense. That's very business discouraging, in my view. So whatever energy issues are related to Bitcoin, data center, whatever, that should be between Duke Power. You're basically just a consumer. Duke Power is going to say, yeah, we can handle your needs, or no, we can't. Or we can build out new infrastructure as you need it. That's what we need to be doing instead of making the business owner work with Duke Power to finagle something around. So that's.
Thank you so much.
Fletcher, 6242 South NC 87 Graham. Who come up with this idea of having this ordinance? Because it seems like you're sexting or you're just picking on this little guy over here. But you know, most of my life was spent in this community. My grandmother worked in a knitting mill where I used to go, and I don't remember any steam powered generators or any mouses in whirligigs that turned the machines. It was all run off electricity. It used to be you couldn't throw a baseball around here without hitting a knitting mill that was pulling a whole heck of a lot more electricity than what this gentleman is just already talking about. I'm a former contractor for Duke Energy, and I can tell you for sure that there are many of building that is abandoned around here that probably has bigger service lines going in to their building right now that is pulling more electricity. Kind of seems like this is written really to get this guy. And it kind of offended me when I read it over. I mean, it's just cryptocurrency. I mean, what about coal? What about West Point? I mean, these companies are pulling down a heck of a lot of energy. Look at the hospital out over here. How many x-ray machines are over there pulling that much juice? How many ventilators are over there pulling probably twice as much juice? Just a hospital. I mean, I think you ought to throw the thing out because it's kind of just picking on one person. And if you come at me with that kind of stuff, I'm going to tell you where to go. Secondly, this man's generating a whole lot of money. And whether it's 2% and then he's got to go buy groceries. He's got 7 and 8%. And then if he buys a car here, all of that money comes right back here to this community. Hopefully he's buying local. You know, and
Plus the staff that works there.
plus the staff that works there. And all that money comes right back here to this community, and that, I'm sorry, I mean, y'all know me, and I'm,
By the way, they make more than $50 an hour. A lot more.
can I get an application?
They're all high paying tech jobs.
But no, this, I mean, just read the ordinance against cryptocurrency and virtual currency. Why not add hospitals, knitting mills, and so forth? I mean, because you're only sectioning out one guy, one industry, excuse me. You're only sectioning out one industry. It's wrong.
Thank you
And
so
so-
much.
One other question.
Uh-huh.
Who came up with this? Was this a state idea? Was this a city idea?
This is a staff idea.
Staff idea.
Yep.
Is this,
And this was drafted in concert with that gentleman you're talking to. So we are trying to draft it to benefit them, not to prevent them.
it still seems like,
We're not picking them. It's just like any other permitted use that you would find in the city. It's got its own set of things that go with it. So hospitals do have their own set of restrictions. Government buildings have their own sets of restrictions. Restaurants have their own sets of restrictions. They're all just a little bit different. And so we can't make a blanket ordinance that covers everything because everything's different. So we have to try to figure out how each individual use is going to impact the community and residents. And they do impact people in different ways. Asphalt plant is going to impact somebody different than a baseball field. You know, they all have their own little nuances, and we try to anticipate those as much as possible, but we're not perfect. And so that's why we reached out to, or Gerald reached out to us, and we mutually reached an agreement that, you know, there's protections for him in there. There's protections for the city in there. There's protections for the city's residents in there. There's reinvestment in the community, which he says he's completely in favor of as a responsible business owner. So we tried to incorporate all that stuff in here. We're not trying to be Big Brother. You know, we're not trying to be the ogre that keeps you out of the swamp. We're trying to be the person that says, yeah, come into Graham, but let's work together. Let's do it responsibly so everybody's happy at the end of the day.
all right,
But yeah, I agree. We're not trying to like overreach. We're just trying to make sure that we have enough protection where
I don't think
this is pretty groundbreaking. I'm not aware of any other jurisdiction in the entire state of North Carolina that has thought far enough in advance to be able to handle these types of uses.
then why are we doing it?
Because
Why,
if we
if
don't
no
do
one
it
else in the
now-
world has a problem, then why does this little bitty town of Graham have a
If we
problem?
don't do it now, you'll find the irresponsible developer will come in, and then you are going to have a disaster of epic proportions on a local level.
There's been a lot of irresponsible developers that have happened as this crypto industry, starts to blossom. There's a lot of stories about New York and Washington State where people would come in to non-regulated states where the municipal power companies, and they would take all the hydro or all the cheap power, but then local residential rates would go through the roof. I mean, triple, quadruple. So you used to pay 5 cents a kilowatt hour, then all of a sudden you're paying 20. And just, totally irresponsible grid maintenance on the power company side, irresponsible demand planning by the developer. Is a mess. And there should be a framework where the company that comes in makes investments. We'll reference Riot Blockchain that operates Windstone in Rockdale, Texas. They used to be Alcoa's largest plant. Well, when it went out of business, fully shuttered in the 90s, the entire town died. There's nothing. I mean, it was so poverty stricken. But what they did have was a tremendous stranded power because the aluminum manufacturing used to be there. So when Riot came in and opened up, all of a sudden now there are 40, 50,000, 60,000 a year jobs that opened up by the dozens. Not only that, they're rebuilding the high school, they're putting investments in the infrastructure of the county and the city because they want to. They want to be good partners, not because Rockdale made them, but because they wanted to do that. And our thought process was we need to put something together so we have a framework, so there's a cooperation. Because obviously Rudy is a little bit more aggressive than I am, right? And his stance was we don't want anything. And the counterpoint to that is when you have folks at City Hall that are willing to listen and cooperate, you should take advantage of that. Because a lot of times those folks are not going to be there, and it's going to be very matter of fact. This is the way it's going to happen. You have to do it just because we said so.
works for everybody. And that was kind of the thought that we could walk the path together and figure out how to make it happen. Before we had somebody comes in and creates issues and then screws it up.
But they only have the updated list yet. So.
Thank you. That's right. So yeah, apologies there. So come to the planning board meeting. I don't know when this one's going to go. Probably
Okay, it's just, I
March.
don't like, this is the same thing with government. You didn't submit that in time, whatever, it should have been submitted. So if somebody dropped the ball there, I'm not sure if you're saying you dropped the ball there, but it should have been submitted to her. So they have the right information available tonight for us to talk about. They don't have that. Why not? This is where this come from. Like, this is where people distrust, because are you trying to pull a fast one or not? I mean,
Nope.
this is-
We make
it
mistakes
seems
just like any
because
human
they
being.
don't have the right information. Am I right, Jennifer?
That's
So,
correct.
yeah, so
But even if I didn't have the right information, this council's still looking out for you. So it wouldn't matter whether you were here or not, what the same result would have ended up. And, you know, I think it's best maybe to have it go back to the planning board, and then the planning board just consider both. Do we want to have an ordinance at all? And if it's your desire to do that and make sure that it's to protect you as much as everybody else, then you can certainly make that plea to the planning board. And I think the planning board needs to make the decision. Does it need to be specific to crypto, or does it just need to be data,
Well,
facilities in general, or maybe a combination and list both of them? And then also, I'm kind of against, I don't like just arbitrarily charging a business when they're not costing us anything. If you're costing us more recycling, then I get that. That makes, if you are disproportionately costing the city of Graham more money in recycling fees or something like that, then I think a fee is warranted. But to just arbitrarily pick on a particular business like a sweepstakes or anything else, it's like you charge them one thing and then you can see how it just blows up into something else. And really, what is the reasoning behind that? And it's my belief, right or wrong, but it's like they see a windfall. And I don't like that. And I don't think that's government's job to do that. It goes against my philosophy, and I think the council's philosophy to say, here's a company that makes millions and millions and millions of dollars. Now, how can I, as a government, reach in their back pocket and get some of that money? And I don't think that's fair. You've earned that money on your own and with your own, unique, right, exactly. And I don't think if that business is not costing us as residents or as a city more money than any other business that was located there, we need to stay out of it. So I think the money thing is something that you guys on the planning board would consider, and whether the data that Mr. Chin has referred to as
well, and as Mr. Wooten has commented about. And now that he's been appointed to the planning board and he's volunteered his service, I think he worked with Justin, we can draft something that works for everybody. And as I said, protects Graham in the long run, so that we don't have someone come in who has no concern about the community. So I think we have an opportunity. It's not here yet. The fact that we've got a Bitcoin, company here now, given what Mr. Wooten has said, we are sitting on a potential to grow. And I agree with Justin. We need to lay the plans now, but they need to be something that attracts the industry versus discourage them because they see, they're being taxed before they even get here. Now, we got two folks who still want to have.
your name and your address.
Chuck Talley, 808 Sideview Street. So a question, a while ago you said 2% of the money comes back, or so are you paying sales tax on your transaction? I mean, where's that 2% coming from? Because the way I see it, like with us and retail, we have sales tax. So the more successful we are, the more sales tax we pay, the more money comes back to the city. So I'm just trying to understand if that's what you're already, if we're seeing things like that, then basically we would want them to be extremely successful, because basically the more successful are, the more money come back to the city anyway, voluntarily, because they're paying sales tax anyway, like us. So the more successful they are, we have a good relationship, the more successful the city is, because they're going to see the fruit of their labor through the sales tax, if that's how it works, correct? That's correct. All right, that's the only thing I had.
Anyone else? Yes.
Madam Mayor, let me preface my remarks by saying I understand only a small percentage of the preceding discussion.
Enough to be dangerous.
Well, enough to have these questions and observations. I think Mr. Chen's fundamental question is a good one of why the city of Graham is getting involved in setting these specific criteria for what kind of energy this kind of business would use, reinvest in, negotiate with. I don't understand why Graham's getting involved in that. I'm not very persuaded by being first in regulation in this area. That is very troubling to my mind. But I also want to raise this. What little bit I did understand, I want to raise this caution. I commend the city planner for having gotten in touch, or vice versa, and worked with the company that's here. But I think that the planning board and the council also need to be sure that whatever regulation is ultimately enacted, if any, is fair to everybody on an equal level. What I've heard a couple of little references to is, well, this wouldn't apply to their company. That, in other words, I don't think there should be carve outs or grandfathering that allows this company to have a better situation than a future Bitcoin operation. Mayor, I believe you at the very outset raised the question of why there was a 1,000-foot buffer. And I think that's a fundamentally good question. We don't have a 1,000-foot buffer for anything that I can think of. And yet that will make it more difficult for other people to come in, because having a 1,000-foot buffer is a hard standard to meet.
Well, and I didn't understand the reasoning for it. I was like, because this doesn't make any noise. So why would I care if I mean, there's literally residences right beside them. And also, like my thought process is, if for whatever reason they need to expand and move their operations somewhere else, they're cutting their own nose off to spite their face, because where are you going to find something with a 1,000-foot setback?
Right.
I mean, nobody's going to build a building with you'd have to go build something specifically, because no one's going to take a plot of land. You're not going to be able to move into an existing building, because there are no buildings that I know of that have 1,000-foot setbacks.
Right.
So if they were to try to move into a bigger building, good luck. I don't know where you're going to do that at. So, I mean, that was my thought, is that how do you ever expand your business with those kind of restraints?
And I think that's certainly true for an expansion, but it would also be true for a new one coming in. And so again, I just think that any of the things that sort of were mutually agreed upon that sort of don't apply to this company, but would apply to future companies, I just think the council and the planning board need to be a little skeptical and look behind some of the rationale for it.
Okay.
That'd be my observation.
Thank you so much. So if no one else is here to speak on that, I'm going to need a motion motion to close the public hearing.
Madam
Make a
Mayor, I
motion.
make a motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I now need a motion to either refer this back to the planning board. Do I hear a motion from the council?
I make a motion that we refer it back to planning board.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's referred back to the planning board to be heard by them and reviewed by them and put on a future agenda of this city council. Do we have anybody in the back that has signed up to speak tonight?
She wants to speak too.
Good evening, everyone, Mayor, council members. My name's Keith Westbrook. I live at 604 Trockwater Court in Graham. I've been to the last 2 or 3 meetings, talked to Justin, talked to Aaron, talked to a lot of different people. I still think this is a safety issue over there. I saw it again this morning, coming down from my house, coming down to the light. Here's someone walking, there's a sidewalk, mind you, over on this side. This kid's walking on the other side in the street because it's unsafe. They don't cross where they're supposed to. There's a crosswalk there on Trollinger, but they're not gonna go across that. They go walk down the road. And when they get down down the road, then they cross. We need to provide these kids with a way to get across the highway there first off. Now I find out the problem is the DOT says you can't do it. You gotta have a sidewalk here. I want you to check out this one fact. Go over to Graham, South Graham. Is there not a crosswalk across that road and there is no sidewalk on the other side?
So I have actually just spoken with DOT.
Okay, tell me.
I talked to him yesterday.
They won't talk to me, so I'll have to
That's
go see
sad,
you.
but I did get a hold of them. I got a hold of Dawn McPherson, who is in their safety department. And she said that if the city is willing to put in maybe 3 to 4 feet along with a ADA accessible ramp and a truncated dome on the opposite side of Elm, and then also on the Trollinger side of Elm.
I think it's already there on Trollinger.
I think it is. I think we may have to provide the ramp
You're right.
to make it ADA accessible. And then ideally, there's a connection there where a sidewalk could connect to an existing sidewalk that's a little further down.
Yep.
I
know exactly what you're talking about, Justin.
So if we can make all those connections, they would be amenable to possibly putting in that signalized crossing there, at least a crossing of some sort. Now, there's a concern with the existing Duke power pole where the crossing would go. So it's really close and that may impact where we can put the ramp. So we've got to look at that, but we're supposed to have a field meeting with them
with the DOT
in a couple of weeks. And I hope to have some good news, at least that we
I
might
hope
have a
so.
path.
And you know, I do. I appreciate what you're doing. You guys are.
So we're
I
trying,
really
we're
do.
trying hard for you.
And you know, it's just no, you know, you don't, people don't see this. Just like I might not see something over here on this side. But when you travel every day down through there and you see it every day, like today, here's this kid walking down the road. Here's a sidewalk over here. If we're gonna have all these sidewalks, that's the other thing. Somewheres along the line, do we not need to connect? But that's one place I think there's always that Elm Street, East Elm Street right there. I remember when I used to work at Roadway and I had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'd go down through there going to work. And there'd be people walking down the road. You can't see them. And of course, they all dressed in black. But that corridor, if you go down through there, I'd like to have someone do a study on it because just the regular foot traffic down that road, I think justifies the sidewalk. And then we got 2 schools there. I think we justified in having a crosswalk there because maybe before when COVID was going on, nobody noticed it because guess what? Nobody was walking to school. Now there's a lot of them that live in that neighborhood. And that's what, like that kid told me, I have to dodge the traffic to get across here. I don't think the kid should have to do that. I really don't.
And we do
I
have.
think we're better than that. I really do. I think Graham is better than that.
Yes, sir.
And, you know, just keep doing what you're doing. Hopefully we'll get it done.
Yeah, I was going to mention, we do have engineered plans for the sidewalk on the north side of Elm Street.
Okay.
So the other side.
Yeah. Are you
there's-
talking about where the road, the sidewalk comes down to that one street right there? and
Basically
stop
across the street from
from there, on
Trollhätter,
that
yeah,
same
so
side,
across the highway, on that side. And I know we've got some slope issues we have to work out, and then there's also some easement acquisition issues because we have some land that's in airship right now. So trying to track down everybody has been difficult, but we're working on trying to revisit.
I know
all
there's a
those.
lot more,
Yep.
and I found out myself, there's a lot more to it than just saying, hey, we're gonna put a sidewalk in, right?
But the cogs are working,
And,
so we're trying to move at least linear in the right
I
direction. to try to
appreciate
get
that. But I just want to, like I told you before, I'm not gonna go way on this subject, but the other thing is about some of these other sidewalks. I noticed on South Main Street, down by Food Line, across from Food Line, they're building a sidewalk, correct? You know what I'm talking about? Food Line, the chiropractor's
Yeah, I know
office,
where you're talking.
Ivy's Road,
I haven't been down there in so long.
just
I'm not
past
sure if it's
Ivy
really-
Road on the other side of Elm, Main Street.
Yeah,
Some of the
I
car
mean,
wash.
but
yeah.
here's another one. Where's that sidewalk go to? What are we doing? Are we connecting the sidewalk or?
So
Are they
we
just
have a lot
building
of
all
areas
of
where there's
that,
no
or-
existing sidewalk, but when new businesses come in, there's a sidewalk requirement.
Is
So
that
the
what it
hope
is?
is
They're doing
that
something
when they
different there,
change
and
out
that's why that's going
eventually,
in? I
or
got you.
they'll
I
put it
got
in
you.
now and the city will make the connections later,
Is there anything in the plan right now, in the 10-year plan or whatever, the downtown plan or any other plan of connecting a lot of these sidewalks or making sidewalk where the people say, hey, we need sidewalks here?
Yeah.
I know, like when we're building these housing places and all
Yes.
that, that's kind of included in there.
That's right.
I mean, to
So
me, we keep talking about the future and everything. You're gonna have electric cars and you're gonna be walking, right?
yeah, sidewalks are a constant for us. We're
Yeah.
always trying to get more and more of them.
And I know probably the money part of it
Money
has a
is,
lot to do
money,
with it.
easement acquisition.
But we do get federal grants for that too, some cases, right?
Sometimes. DOT and the MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization, they are the ones that kind of dish out the funds for us, and it's been tight the past couple of years, so.
Well, look,
hopefully-
I've never distrusted the people in Graham. I've lived here 30-some years, and I've always felt like if I had something that I could come up here and talk. Jerry was mayor for how long? I've known several of the old mayors, but I always felt like that, and I want to continue to feel like that. That if I have something and I think it's a problem, or a lot of people come to me and say, they won't do nothing about this. I said, well, you got to go talk to them. Well, they're not going to go talk to you. I'm just going to tell you, you got people out there that ain't going to do it. But with us working together like this, and you have concerned citizens about stuff, I think we really need to listen to some of the citizens when they do speak. You know what I mean?
Aaron, what is the status of the sidewalk on Elm Street?
I think it's what Justin said. I mean, there are challenges trying to complete that sidewalk project just because there are some terrible slopes there that it's
Why
gonna
did they
cost.
start it if they're not gonna finish it? I mean, that's 20 years ago. I mean, I
Yep.
own a property on Elm Street and they bought why did the city buy up all these easements and then not finish it? I'm not getting it.
Maybe I'm
It's a
misunderstanding
high priority
something
street.
about.
Huh?
It was a high priority street. It
Well,
was,
if it must not be too high priority, it's been 20 years and it's not been done.
well,
You kind of walked into that one.
Problem, Mayor, with me, because I've lived over there in the house where I'm at right now for approximately 27 years over here. Lived over there before. 27 years and it's like, back then was a little bit smaller. The problem wasn't as big. But I think it's always been a problem, basically because.
I think if we had a sidewalk down Elm Street, it would be used tremendously.
it's not as. as
If you've
Mr.
seen the
Westbrook said,
foot traffic, I'm telling you, someone that lives or you travel there and you see it every day, day in and day out, you almost always see someone walking down that
I mean,
street.
is it like, it doesn't make sense to me that you can't do it. If you can't do it, then why did you go and buy all the easements?
The money that we were using then is not the same cost to do it as it is now. So when you met the challenges along the way that stalled it, the cost went exponentially higher. So it's an extreme cost
So
now.
you wasted money buying all the easements and
Well,
then,
when you go into a project, you're assuming that you have a certain amount of time that you'll be able to get in and get all that you need and be able to go forward with the project. But when you hit air properties and you have difficulty closing out outside of eminent domain to keep the project moving along, you're trying to work with the property owners to obtain what you need. I mean, if council
yeah,
funds
but
it to
if
move
you're,
forward,
I mean, you know, I don't care for eminent domain, but along the same lines, if it's just to clear up title and there's no objection from the people that own the property, sometimes that clears up title.
we're talking about something, you're talking about something 10, 15 years old at this point. So if we are to move forward, all we need is the money. And if you want us to move forward with the attorneys to look into clearing titles and all that, it's the money now. It's the cost to do it. So for us to move forward, we would need the funds, and it's gonna be a lot more than where we were 15, 20 years
Oh,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
No doubt.
it's ridiculous how much it costs
Even
now.
5 years ago.
Yeah,
Big time.
5.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot higher now to complete it now compared to then.
Is there any money that's available that we could apply for to get to do it?
I mean, you have to see what it meets, criteria wise. I mean, just safer routes to school deal is extremely difficult to meet the criteria. I don't know if it does or not, but I mean, we can look and see. I don't know if any that come to mind. We can look and see are there any that might be out there that we're not thinking of. Burke is very resourceful. Burke looks for a lot of opportunities, and he tries to maximize his power bill funds, all the money that he gets, from different areas. It's just that the money that we have allocated to do that project won't scratch it in today's time.
I understand, but you've got 90% of the easements, right?
I'm not sure about that. I had to look to see. I haven't seen the file since I've been back.
I just don't understand why you have all that sunk cost and, I mean, each one of those easements costs $6,000.
Really?
$5,000.
Wow.
Sheriff, this is the difference between government and small business. Small business would get more money up to fix the project, not let it go on for 15 years. Who does?
It's been longer than that, buddy. It's been 20-some years.
Well, yeah. So I
I've
appreciate,
lived over there 27 years. They built that sidewalk down to that building. They remodeled.
but it's not, sometimes it's not, you have a change of council, but point of order, we need to get the meeting back on track.
I'm sorry.
And I'll just say that we'll look into the idea of finishing the Elm Street project. If you'll talk to Burke about what funding we would need in order to be able to do that. We have some money coming.
And I get an updated cost for you so that you can see what it would cost to do it.
There you go.
Well, I mean, and also I'd like to know how much we've spent. How much money have we already spent to
It's
do
like we
a project
invested the
that's
money years
undone
ago,
for
but-
20 years?
But the money that wasn't used just gets rolled back into the general fund. But I can look to see what we did spend.
Right.
It's not like we spent it frivolously. I mean, if it wasn't used on the project, it was rolled back in.
No, I'm saying, I know that money went out that you're never going to get back.
For the
So-
purchase of the easements.
Correct.
Correct, yes.
For a sidewalk that you
Mhm.
don't have. So I'm just saying, we already have some sunk cost in there. And if it's just a matter of like getting 10% of the whole project in easements and stuff, then like working to get that done and then trying to find a funding source for it. But,
Well, I can get it. I can get what was spent, where the properties were. I can get an updated cost from Bert, and we could provide it to council. If that were.
that used to be one of the highest priorities for the sidewalk, even back then, for
was.
sidewalks in Graham. I want to say it was in the,
It scored.
Ma'am,
It always
ma'am,
scored.
I
high.
remember 2 or 3 years ago, I'm not sure if you were on the council then, but this was spoke of about sidewalks in general, but this particular one was brought up because at that time, that's when they did that sidewalk down to that street where the building is they redid, where they do the police car thing, radios and stuff, that building, they run that sidewalk down to that street right there. And that's where it ended, right? And since then, that was been, what, how many years ago was that when they did that?
At least, I would say probably close to 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
But look, ma'am, all I want to do is, I do appreciate what y'all are doing, and I do appreciate what Justin and Aaron do. I do. And if there's anything we can do to move this along, and because I feel like our kids deserve better over there. When you see, if you see what I've seen before in the past year, just this year since they started back to school, and I'm not looking, it's not like I sat there and look for it. I ride down there and then you see it, and here's this kid running across the road, you know, I mean.
Thank you, Mr. Westbrook. We appreciate you coming.
I got one other question. If you was talking about funding for a project like this, the question I've been wanting to ask was about, you know, the newspaper had where the COVID money that the states and the cities was going to get, so on and so forth, and Graham was getting, I think, 3-something million, correct?
I think it's.
Our manager should be able to tell me this, I
4.8,
know.
somewhere around there.
The total is slightly less than 5 million, and that will
Okay.
be split into 2 different payments.
But my question is, do we have a plan for this money already? That's my question, ma'am.
We have not discussed where is it HARCA money? Is that what you?
ARPA.
ARCA money is going to go yet. But we were able to obtain 2 grants, and we're working on a 3rd grant for an infrastructure improvement for our water line, which is 70 years old, that comes from the water treatment plant back into the city. It needs to be replaced. It's our #1 priority right now for infrastructure.
Understand that.
And I got a letter today. I got 2 letters back already. We just need 3. So we'll be submitting those for hopefully, we feel pretty good about getting that grant, which would total $13 million to go towards that project. But certainly this project and other projects will be looked at. But if there's a specific grant out there that would help fund this project, it might be better to go after that grant for
I
this
understand.
specific purpose rather than.
Y'all know that stuff. I don't. Okay, that's why.
There's certain restrictions to money when it comes into the
Right.
city, and we have to look at those and then determine
the use
how to
and
best
so on and
spend
so
it.
forth. Okay, I thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Ms. Jan Searles, thank you for being here tonight. If you'll state your name and your address.
My name's Jan Searles, 526 East Pine Street, and currently the chair of the tree board. I know you've already voted, but you need to have the information anyway. For close to 15 years, I've served on the Appearance Commission with an inactive tree board, the Appearance Commission combined with the tree board, and now the tree board. They were separated 5 years ago for very good reasons so that they could focus on their each unique mission. The Appearance Commission is about beautification, encouraging it and recognizing it in both businesses and residences. Its scope of interest is only limited by the members' imagination and energy. The tree board is narrowly focused on our trees, the benefits they bring, their care and integration into both our existing and developing neighborhoods. To remain a Tree City USA, Graham must have a tree board. But we have come to realize as a board that our mission is an adjunct to the excellent work that the city staff is currently doing. We determined that the best way to support the city is for the tree board to be used for outreach and engaging and educating our citizens about trees. There's another way, though, that makes the tree board very unique. It's a wonderful entry level opportunity for civic engagement for young homeowners, parents, and new residents. We have a young membership on a tree board. They're parents who have come to us through experiencing our focus on interesting children in trees. We worked closely with Parks and Rec, Alamance Arts, and Library. We have an outstanding, we don't do Arbor Day. We did last year an Arbor Month, and we're doing an Arbor Month again, but a lot of help from Parks and Rec. Brandy is an absolute gift to this city. Brandy McCandless. We have an outstanding Arbor April plan, but our work is year round. We're gearing up to make the tree board's activities and offerings such as expert talks, guided walks, online activities, and access to sound advice run throughout the year. I'm speaking for myself tonight, for my years serving in this city. It's been 15 years. My term is up in June, and I don't intend to reapply because I believe we need younger people involved, and I am definitely no longer young. But I will continue to be a volunteer. I really wish you, and in a way you have tabled the decision, right? I've lost track in this meeting. Okay. The Appearance Board, Parents Commission, and the Tree Board attract different people. People who come and join the Tree Board. We happen to have an overlap right now, but that's simply because we weren't able to get the information about the Tree Board out beyond those parents. Those are the ones that are new to the board. They also serve some of them on the Appearance Commission. And they're wonderfully dedicated people willing to give their time on 2 commissions. And it would be easy for them if it was brought together. But I've been there before, and we lose momentum and we lose energy when it's divided. I hope as you approach this, you will keep the Appearance Commission and the Tree Board currently intact. I believe a person who was chosen for City Council was the chairman of the Appearance Commission. I'm leaving in June. I'm the chairman of the Tree Board. So there's going to be some shakeups in it. But they need to be the ones to develop the pros and cons for putting it together, for figuring out what are the benefits to be gained from joining them together, and determine the best way to structure that entity, not, oh, let's take 2 from this and 3 from that. This is, these are like, they're different. They're totally different boards. One thing with the Tree Board is there's a lot of education involved in it. There's a lot of homework involved in it. There's a lot of extra time that's required, and these people are willing to do it. There's Tree University run by, through the Urban Forestry Program, developed by by NC State. And they've all attended it online. It's about 10 hours of training about what a tree board can do, how it can contribute to a city. I don't see people who want to volunteer for the Appearance Commission being, to learn that. You've got to, if you're going to put it together, it needs to be really well thought out. And those are the people on the boards that can help you develop it, rather than just arbitrarily decide to put the 2 together and pick one from here and one from there or whatever. But we have a chance with Arbor Day to, we've designed it to recruit for those 2 seats. One reason we didn't reach out and recruit is because because of COVID, we weren't doing things that we would normally do. And we wanted to recruit. I don't know if we're going to be able to recruit now if the boards are going together. But I would ask if you're determined to just put it off until after we get through the month of April and we do our Arbor Day, as we've set it up and worked on it.
Well, I can just say from my perspective that my thought was that the Tree Board operated as a subcommittee as it did in the past, just like the Sports Banquet Hall of Fame operated as a subcommittee under the committee that the rec committee. And in the past, it was like Arbor Day was kind of the big thing. So people that served on the Appearance Commission would meet separately to also meet about that Arbor Day and to plan the Arbor Day out. And I think like the perspective of, I did not think, and I've certainly served on these boards in the past. I didn't remember the Tree Board having a need to meet 12 months out of the year when they just have the main event of Arbor Day. And it's not a big deal for people that are volunteers. That's not a big deal. But when we have a paid staff member that's having to meet for 2 or 3 hours and take his time that the taxpayers are paying for. And I think if there's something substantive on the agenda for the tree board to address, like the Arbor Day, I'm 100% for paying for that staff member to be there, but to have him just, I don't agree with meeting for the sake of meeting.
There wouldn't be. The way we've designed it and the way we've designed it looking forward is some of the meetings would actually be, we have a guest speaker, do it as an event for the city, open to the public, come and learn. We're about education. Tim's time, we don't foresee meeting every month. We've managed, we went to monthly meetings, but it was during COVID. We did it on Zoom. The thing is that the old tree board, when I was on the appearance board, what Arbor Day was in the city when I got here in 2007, I think I started, 6 or 7. It was the city told us who had retired. And of the people who retired, we were going to plant a tree in honor of that retiree. And then we did a luncheon for that family. $600 every Arbor Day was spent on the family and friends of whoever retired to get, after we had read the proclamation, had the ceremony, and then they had that. It wasn't an Arbor Day. We went and worked, we made it into education in about 2013 when it was both boards combined. But we did that by planting at the middle school, combining it with the 6th grade photosynthesis class for 2 years, but we ran out of space. Then we went to the Children's Museum, and then we went to Family Fun Days. And we did that in conjunction with the Appearance Commission. But then it became, we were looking for what is our role beyond Arbor Day. Arbor Day can be, it's just an event. It's like the Hall of Fame banquet. It's a 1-year event. What was our real role? And NC State came out with the Tree Board University, and everyone attended it. We realized there is tremendous potential here, that we have the chance with the tree board, first of all, to get involved with it. So it's an entry level civic type of thing. The second thing was that education, if we can reach out to the kids and get the kids interested in trees, the parents come along with them, and the activities that Brandy and Christina last year came up with was hard because it was the first time we were doing it that way. But this year, and working with 2 of the young mothers that we have a bunch of activities planned for the kids. But it's also a way through those activities to get people who are new to Graham to explore Graham. You would do a scavenger hunt for leaves for the kids for various things. They do it online, but the kids and their families go to this park for this kind of tree, this park for they'll get out and do it. Particularly, there's a lot of homeschooling here where activities they can do with the kids are really, in something they want to do. We have a great regional park. This year, we're going to be doing a tree planting and market as the City of Graham 2022 Arbor Day tree. We're going to put in a dawn redwood so the kids can see how fast it grows and mark themselves against it, make it an event. And each year, start a year's worth of activities that go throughout the year and the seasons of the trees. We'd like to educate people how to handle their trees, particularly how not to murder crepes, and end up with some of the unsightly messes we get. Educate homeowners. We have, when developments come in, and from the development you and Judy live in, they put in the wrong kind of trees. And it caused tremendous problems. They put in river birches too close to the streets and the way they grew. And the city went in and cleaned it out. We didn't educate homeowners. And look, we paid tons of money to get old fields sorted out because of the trees they planted that all had to be removed and replaced. The tree board is to get ahead of the curve. If you want to combine the two, it makes less overtime or something like that. Fine, I'm not going to be on it, but what I'm just talking about going forward, let the people involved in it that know what these boards can do. I mean,
I don't think it's the desire of this board to micromanage those commissions. The whole point of the commissions, I think, is to give them the opportunity to set up whatever events or work as they feel they need to be able to work on different agenda items that they have. So I don't really
Well-
think that we set their agendas or anything. So I don't want you to think that this is some way to penalize them or anything. We see the value in the tree board. We just want, I think that we feel that the board members that serve both on the appearance commission can also serve on the tree board as well. And I think, to your point, I think it is smart that when we're looking to hire, to recruit people on those boards, that we do have some people with some tree knowledge, maybe somebody that has some experience with trees and they could work with the planning department or TRC when these developments come in to make recommendations to developers as to what trees need to be done. I mean, it's for you to set your agenda as a subcommittee. I don't think we want to micromanage that.
well, what I'll say is this is, and I'm now departing in June. I'm departing as a volunteer for this city. I only knew that it was on the agenda to do this because someone told me, you need to look at the last month's board meeting, the comments of the council. There's something in there about tree boards. That's how I found out this was going to be coming up. No one told me. I have had 3 members of the city council sit in my tree boards in the last 2 months, and no one has said a word to me that this was coming up. I've had no warning. I've had nothing. When I found out, I went and talked to Megan and Aaron.
Well,
They were very
I'm sorry
helpful.
that you were not notified. It certainly wasn't our intent, but that honestly is, we don't notify anybody of the meetings. That's for staff to do. I'm sorry that didn't happen.
No,
Is there some reason that she wasn't
But
notified?
why did it come up in the beginning without someone asking the boards, hey, how's it going? We're thinking about something. Why was this something a council member brought up without ever having one word with the boards involved?
Can you address as to why she was not notified?
Well, I guess from our perspective, it was difficult for us to know what to say to the board when we didn't know exactly what the language was going to be or how the
Yeah.
composition was going to be.
Okay.
I mean, they were made aware, she was made aware that there was the discussion of possibly recombining, but until council
As soon as
discussed.
I knew, they both gave me a considerable amount of time. I was very pleased with be able to work with them. But the thing is that, I mean, when you were talking, well, suddenly it was, well, we can take Megan and put her in here. We can do this, no, let them figure out how to do it. You're taking 2 7-man boards, 7 people boards that have a mission defined of what they do. Let them figure out if it works together. It may end up with all the activities we're doing that a better fit is to work with the rec department. And take the tree board and make it, heaven knows they got enough trees. But take the tree board and make it work with doing these activities, the education, everything, with the rec department.
Well,
It can be a great benefit to the city, but it needs to be thought out.
Yeah, I think that if there are members on either committee that are not happy with the decision of the city council, by all means, they can certainly contact Bobby, myself, Joey, or Ricky and say, hey, we're not happy with this. But I do think that some of the board members had spoken to some people on the committees, and it operated as we had it, as it was being proposed tonight, for 50 years that way. I'm exaggerating, I don't know, but ever since their inception, as far as I know, 20 years ago, that's how they operated. So it really is not, we didn't eliminate the tree board. All we did is just
No.
make it a subcommittee of the appearance
Well,
board. That's it.
The thing is, I've been with it. I spent 3 terms with a subcommittee of the appearance board. And it's a totally different emphasis. It's a totally different interest area. It attracts a totally different kind of people who want to volunteer. And when it's a subcommittee, they have to volunteer for the appearance board to be on the tree board. You know, and that is, you know, that's a stumbling block. The appearance board has a legacy in this city.
I
There are
think
people who want to be on it.
we'll have that committee address that issue with the staff and see if they can revise the application to address this issue that you're concerned about, so that when people apply, they know that it's both a tree and appearance board. So
Okay,
that they
well,
can apply
it's-
for either.
I mean, one of the things when they did the task force last year, we had asked for, almost all of us asked for, was to have an application form for the individual board, that having an application form where you check what boards you want to be on. If someone's eager to get involved, they'll check whatever, you know,
Sure.
just to get involved. And you said tonight you didn't make it onto the planning board. Well, there are other boards out there. People have specific interest areas. And when they want to volunteer, they quite often have passions. And if you wanted to be on the planning board, taking a seat on the appearance commission probably isn't gonna, you know, check that block. So a different application would be easy to do. So if they have to fill in, if they want to be on 3 boards, and then if the application explained what is required of you as a member. In the tree board, it would be required is go to this place at NC State, and you'll see what is the education you can get, but what kind of time you want to put in. The problem I had with the appearance commission when I had it, and we were doing the beautification awards, is I had nobody who, at that time, was an older group, who drove. So they couldn't go around and look at and nominate any properties. You know, I mean, it's people have passions for things, and you have boards and commissions that give residents a chance to get civically involved. But the matchup is really beneficial to the city to get people who are committed about what they volunteer for, rather than, I mean, I really like our prior mayor, but he would just stick someone in a hole because he couldn't stand to
Well,
see a vacancy.
You know, that was the prior administration.
Yeah, no, I
And
just,
so I appreciate what you're saying, but I think this is the opportunity that's being presented to this council and to the commissions, that there are vacancies where people who have interest in being involved can apply and be appointed,
yeah,
versus picking, well, I want to pick this person, I want to put you on this
but
committee.
what I'm
So,
saying
ma'am,
is,
you know, you've been a dedicated volunteer, and what has happened in the past is past. But Mr. Parson and I, we're new. And so we aren't beholden to what happened in the past, but we recognize what you're saying about
yeah,
those, the type of folks that should be appointed to the appearance committee, and that there should be folks who are also interested in
Yeah.
being in the subcommittee. So don't think that because we are merging those 2 committees, that one is going to be forgotten or kicked to the side. That is not the intent.
No,
So your concerns are duly noted.
okay.
All right. So again, we thank you for your service, and by your retirement, you're giving someone the opportunity to step up.
That was my goal. You know,
So-
and there are people who, if it is the way it went last year, they came out of the woodwork. Problem is, they then moved and other things happened because they are young families.
Yeah.
But
Well, thank you.
the tree board can be of tremendous benefit to the city, wherever it's placed and whoever it works with.
We see the value in that, I assure you.
Okay.
I mean, I have dedicated probably more trees in the city than anybody else. I mean, every single year I dedicate trees. Last year I dedicated 3 trees. So I see the value in it. I put my time and effort into supporting it. I assure you it is, like as Mr. Chen says, it's not in any way to limit that board and what it wants to do. If it wants to have several events a year with volunteers, then that's, I don't, that, you know, I mean, we're not here to micromanage that board. That commission is to help us,
But
is
just-
to help
it's-
this city council.
As you combine them, though, I think they can give a lot more insight to how to do it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here tonight. Can I please get the city council comments? Do you have anything for tonight, Joey? Anything you want to bring up? Hey, Ricky?
I'd like to welcome Bonnie to
Bobby?
Nothing.
Okay, well, unfortunately, I have a little small list here. At last month's, I talked to you guys about taking the 4,000 and some dollars and change that came from the Graham Historical Society and dedicating that to the Graham.
I'm sorry, there was something I promised to bring forward for the council to consider. The current personnel management plan for the city is 8 years old. And I would like to recommend to the council that the city manager look into updating the current personnel management plan to incorporate the disciplinary policies written by the state to bring our personnel policy in line, because I think our current policy has gaps in regards to disciplinary actions. So I would like to make a motion that the city manager be authorized to pursue rewriting the personnel management plan.
I'll second this motion.
Okay, so that's the direction of this council. I heard a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Mayor, kind of piggybacking off of what Bobby was talking about, the code of conduct. And that, I think the code of conduct doesn't really address board members, different things. They can get on social media, talk about whoever. Social media is really not addressed that I can see a whole lot. So I think maybe the code of conduct and in this personnel manual maybe needs to be extended out to people on the board to have to agree to abiding by what the city does as well, because I don't think that that is right now. And code of conduct needs to include, kind of like crypto mining is new, social media has probably been more affluent as of late than when this original plan was written. So we need to probably address some of those things as well.
And just for clarification, by boards, you mean appointed boards by the council, is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
planning board,
Right.
commission, tree board, whatever. If you're going to represent the city, you need to abide by the city personnel manual.
That's fine. We will work with our attorneys to ensure, no freedom of speech violations might be inadvertently written into that. So,
Right.
Well, the fact of the matter is, if you're a city employee or an elected city official, we are responsible to the citizens. And we should live by a code of conduct that they would accept or expect of us.
Regardless of a manual.
Absolutely.
Right.
Couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
Back to the list that I had was the money that was left over from the Graham Historical Society, if that could be dedicated to the Graham Resource Commission or I'm welcome to get input from the other council members, but in the past, what that money was raised for is the bronze plaques that go outside the historic buildings. It tells circa, the date of the building and like a little kind of summary about the building. And is kind of good about, giving maybe a little self-walking tour type thing to acknowledge the historic character of the buildings and maybe tells a little story about it. I think it's my opinion that it's probably, and some of the plaques already say Graham Historical Commission, but I know some of them also say Graham Historical Society. But I guess my feeling is money that was raised by the Historic Society was for that purpose. And I think that money should then now be used for that purpose. It's just now that that organization is defunct, that charge needs to be taken up, I think, by that committee. Does staff agree that that's the most reasonable place, or do you have another suggestion?
No, I think that would be appropriate.
Because it could be that or the museum, but to me, it seems more suited to the commission. You agree?
And I was just going to mention, if we do something like that, the easiest way would probably just be to direct the commission to do like a blanket COA for all the plaques. That way they don't have to do one for every individual plaque. That will just say, okay, staff, here's what we want for each plaque. This is a directive to go ahead and approve anything that meets these standards. That way we don't have to come back each individual time to put one on building. I think for
Okay.
simplicity, that'll make it easiest for everybody.
Okay. Do you need a motion for that, to direct that money to go there? Or does it need to go on to the next city council meeting because it's not something that was on the agenda tonight?
From my perspective, I think be on the safe side is always better with motion. And that will be reflected in the minutes. There's a question about later, you can have the rest of the points back.
Okay, well, let's put it on the agenda for next month's meeting then to make a motion and pass that. Can't imagine that anybody would have any comments, but let's just be on the safe side.
Put it on the consent agenda later.
Okay.
That's the choice of council.
Okay, that's fine. And then I want to ask staff about the idea of if it's possible and if we need to get the city attorney to look into this, but I have heard that other fire departments allow their volunteers to come in and work part-time shifts for a small stipend. It's like $50 as opposed to like what a full-time fireman maybe charges and things like that. And obviously having the benefit of a combined fire department, you're both keeping people up on actual like running trucks and running fire calls and all that sort of stuff, more so than just like the volunteer hours that they would be getting. And I just want to see maybe if that would give some more interest to people wanting to volunteer with the city, and also at the same time saving the city money. Can you tell me whether I've heard that that's allowed in other cities, but we just have never implemented. And I think there's been a lot of talk about doing it, but if maybe you could, the fire chief's not here he's already left, but if you could talk to him and see if that's something that we could do. I think it's my desire to encourage as much volunteerism in that fire department as we can get. We saw in this last Embers Hotel Motor Lodge the importance of volunteers and the availability when we have a major structure fire. I appreciated that in the consent agenda, we are donating equipment back to the Graham High School Fire Protection Program. And I want us to try to be working with that fire department program to be recruiting our next fire staff, our next staff there as they rise up and get training and maybe some mentorship or some internships or any of that sort of thing. That's my desire. I think I'm here seeing nods of, are you guys in agreement with that? But if you could explore that and come back to the council and let us know if that's something that the fire chief and the city would be able to possibly do. I want to say that it's my desire to have a recycling bid opened by next month. Is that possible?
That time frame may be a little too tight, but we can nail that down and get back to you to be sure.
Well, the problem is that if we don't get it out now, it's going to be too late for somebody you're going to have the bid, you're going to have you got to put it out for bid for a time frame. You've got to then get your bids in, then you've got to have a council meeting to approve it. And all of that is also during the budget session. And all that's got to be done before the contract renews in June. And I'm not in favor of what I've already gotten from what we've already seen from Burlington and raising our recycling rates by 300%. So I'm not really keen on, I'm hoping that our bid contract is going to be a lot less restrictive. In talking with you, it's going to be a lot less restrictive than Burlington's contract. And so hopefully we will have many more competitive bidders and hopefully save money for the citizens. So if you can't get it by the next council meeting, get it as soon as you can, and we can even have a special meeting to put it out there. But time is of the essence in my mind. I mentioned this back in November. I wanted it done January, but I understand things happen or whatever, but I want us to be putting it out as soon as possible because I just feel like we're going to run out of time. Even if we got a bid in April that was accepted, I mean, April to June is not enough time for that particular winter to tool up to be able to start recycling. I think that's why those things need to at least have 6 months lead time. But I don't do the recycling contract. Do you agree with that or?
Well, we can speak with Bert tomorrow at the staff meeting and probably get a better idea of if we can make it work within the next 30 days. I agree with Megan. It might be a little tight to get it out.
What's the obstacle? I mean, we've done recycling contracts for years and years and years. We've always done RFPs in the past. What's changed from when we did it so many years ago to today? I'm not getting what the problem is. Why couldn't we do it in November? Why couldn't we do it in December? Why couldn't we do it in January?
It's my understanding in years past, we've piggybacked off Burlington's.
We're not doing that.
Right. So they went out for bid, I believe, towards the end of last calendar year. So the initial thought was perhaps we could piggyback off Burlington as we've done in years past. As I mentioned to you, I believe they only had one bid and it was significantly higher. So our public works director did reach out to some other companies to find out why they didn't submit a bid for Burlington, found out some restrictions in the bid that they weren't keen on, which is why we have evaluated and continue to evaluate the fact that we will probably have to go out for our own bid. But in years past, we have just piggybacked on Burlington. And as long as you're doing like for like, you're legally allowed to do that without going out for bid on your own. But it would appear in this instance that may not be viable.
When did you know that their bid RFP was so restrictive?
I want to say near the end of this past year, whenever we got a copy of what went out. And there were certain things in there that I'm assuming turned off certain.
Well, you heard from from vendors that they were absolutely turned off. No one wants to build a building, and then if they don't use it, it reverts back to the city of Burlington. Who wants to do that?
Yeah, so,
So I'm just saying that we need to get our bid, our RFP out as quickly as possible, I think.
and Bert may be further along, you know, in the process. So if he is, then, you know, that would be good news in us being able to meet the timeline that you're wanting, and we can update you on where we are. If, you know, where we are as far as whether we can get it done in the next few weeks, or it's gonna take just a little bit longer. But Bert may be further along in that process.
Okay, well, I mean, Burlington, I assume had a reason for doing that, but we wouldn't have that same reasoning that I know of, right?
We want to get more bids.
Okay. Okay, I just want us to be as, to look at all the options in order to try to get the most attractive bid, because what I'm hearing from people is not good, that it's going to be a big, huge increase. And I don't, you know, anything that we can do to try to get a competitive bid, reaching out to vendors to try to bid the project. You know, how long will they have to bid it? 30 days?
I'm not sure what the statutory requirement is for, if it would fall in formal or informal bid, but we can look into that and let you know. Just so you know, Burlington's RFP was 68 pages in length, the one that went out. So it was
It's lengthy.
fairly cumbersome.
Okay, well, we're not doing that. Obviously, it was written by a lawyer. I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you a hard time. I think that, you know, we have an opportunity to kind of, to do something to get some good bidders out there that maybe didn't get Burlington's and maybe wants to pick up Graham. So anything we can do to save tax dollars, I want to do that. The issue in regards to insurance, the city's employee insurance, when are we looking at that, and what time schedule are we on for that? Because I don't mean to volunteer you, but Joey knows about insurance. And I'm hoping that, and maybe it's a different kind of insurance, but I'm hoping that we could look at some things in insurance to improve our insurance issue. That kind of a recurring theme that we hear from city employees is that they want the council to look at some ideas to improving our insurance plan. And I certainly want to be able to do that if that's possible. And then the last thing that I had was about the events. We got a list of events in our Dropbox, and I guess I was under the impression that the council still approves events. And so if you guys could talk to me a little bit about that, or give some explanation as to why those events are not coming before this governing body.
I don't have the list in front of me. I'm sorry. But I'm assuming that the criteria was met for it to be approved by the special events committee, which would be able to approve based on the criteria that the council had approved in the ordinance.
I still thought that the committee then recommends that to the board for approval.
It's dependent upon the, I'm just going off of my memory here. It's dependent upon the ADT, how much is on that like particular road. I think it's 10,000 cars a day. I'm remembering to be that way.
I just don't think it was the intent of some of the council members at that time to give up legislative authority over events. It was the discussion that was had with staff was about it, if in order for people that come at the last minute to want to do an event, as long as you're not, as long as you don't have it on Main Street and on that main DOT road, and we have to go to DOT and get approval, and you're not setting up a stage or anything like that on that main street, and you can move your event to either one of the side streets or Elm Street or Maple Street or any of those side streets, Marshall even, that it doesn't impact traffic, then we're fine with you being able to do that and getting the road closure through the staff. But it was always my understanding as a council member, when all that was passed, that that still would come to council if it was a true event and be passed. Now, if it's something that is like a parade or something like that, then I mean, it was my understanding that all of that still had to be approved by council.
It's written distinctly of what goes to the SEC for approval and then what then goes to council. I think if there's language currently, without pulling it up, because my computer's dead, so I try to get back on.
I know the
that-
last sentence says that events had to be approved by the council. The very last sentence.
I think it distinctly specifies which route you go based on which area you're going to have the event at. Without looking at it, I remember it having two routes to take.
Okay, well, it's my desire to make sure that that legislative power is not taken away from the council. It was not my intent for that to happen when I was on the council before, and I thought that after that ordinance was originally passed, and I know that then they put it on hold for a while, I thought there were several events that they came to the council to get approved, and I thought that there was a situation where somebody said, well, if you don't have the stage and it's not an actual event, then you don't have to go to council. So I'm not really understanding when that stopped, or maybe my understanding of it was different than whoever actually penned the ordinance. And even when I read the ordinance, that was still my interpretation.
Yeah, I was trying to pull up on my phone, but it's gonna probably take a little longer. I think if council wants to change the language to read differently, or to maybe point in a different direction, I mean, staff can certainly do that. I believe it's just written in a way where if it is less than 10,000, vehicles a day on this particular road, then the SEC, the Special Events Committee, can have the ability to approve. So if that's not what council wants to do at this point, because I know it's approved with a different council, and if this council wants to go in a different direction with that, we can certainly look at it and come back.
I
with
had a
something different.
very in-depth discussion about that, and how it came up was someone wanting to do I think a protest. And I said, well, in order to be able to afford them to be able to do that, because sometimes those things happen as a result of a particular event that happened. So in response to that event, being able to close those roads that have less than 20,000 people, obviously is, we want to be accommodating, but closing a major road with 25,000 cars is a lot harder to do and takes a lot more prep time than 24 hours or 48 hours. So we were trying to, for those particulars, that's my understanding. But I still thought that if you had a true event, it didn't matter where you had it. If you had a true event, you still had to come before the council to get it approved.
Madam Mayor, could you explain maybe a couple of examples of what kinds of events you're seeing that either take place or be approved that you thought should have or would have come before the council?
So typically in the past, all of the Thursdays at 7s were approved in a blanket request. Usually Recreation would come before the council and get all those Thursday at 7 concerts approved. I think I don't have a problem with any of these events. It's just, I just thought that they were supposed to come before the council to be approved, and I don't know what happened, or maybe it was just a misunderstanding between what we thought we were passing versus what actually got penned. And, you know, people can read something sometimes two different ways. So, and I remember reading specifically, I know it's the very last line, and it says events have to come back before the council. So I thought that covered it. But they also have the Graham Food Truck Rodeo, which I think they've had in the past, which was great and very successful. I don't know what the Dino Day Spring Festival is. Do you know what that is? It's a food truck rodeo. And Graham Toberfest, the Family Abuse Car Show. And then like they usually got the weather rain dates also approved at the same time, just in the event that there was a weather related issue. But I just think it's important to, there's some concerns that we have just in general about events. And I can just tell you my main one, and I've said this over and over to staff, is that when you have an event at a park, you're not disturbing anybody's business. But when you have an event downtown, you are disturbing someone's livelihood. And if you take up all the parking in front of their business, and just arbitrarily, I mean, the downtown is not, in my opinion, a place that you can just rent out like a gazebo in a park. It's not a shelter. And you have to be considerate of the businesses that you're affecting. Now, all of these particular events, I think, are on West Elm Street, which on a Saturday, that doesn't, you know, it's county offices and things like that. It doesn't necessarily probably hurt anybody's business. And I think that's the reason why they chose that location. And that's a responsible person. But I think we get in a dangerous situation where you say, I want to have a birthday party and I want to close all 4 roads of Court Square, all 100 blocks of Court Square. As long as I meet all these guidelines of the event committee, you're going to do that and just block everybody's street in order to have a birthday party. I mean, I don't see how that is fair to the business owners that are there, that have the potential to have to be closed or be blocked off or any of that sort of thing. And I think that we need to take that into consideration. I don't know how the rest of the council feels about it because I haven't talked to them about it, but
Yeah, I actually found, it does read how I remembered it. A permit may be issued by the committee, Special Events Committee, for the closure of any street having traffic counts less than 10,000 cars per day, parking lots, sidewalks, or greenways, based upon the following criteria, which was approved by council, 8 total. The last sentence does say road closures requests that exceed 10,000 cars per day require authorization by the city council. So it was that $10,000 trigger, $10,000 count trigger that made it go one route versus another.
I think that the distinction, though, in my mind was, regardless of how it was ended up being written and interpreted, was that it was supposed to be for like blocking the street for a protest or for a parade or a rally or anything like that. But setting up stages and things like that, that's a true event. I guess the definition of what, do you have a definition in there of what an event is?
It lists out street events include, but are not limited to the following: general events, neighborhood block parties, foot races or bicycle races, and then there are descriptions for those 3 criteria. But I think if council wants us to focus in on this, since we're already looking at this ordinance currently in other
Okay.
areas, we could certainly do that and then try to figure a mechanism that you're more comfortable with.
Well, I don't know what the rest of the council feels, but I would like to be able to approve events here in the city of Graham, as we have traditionally done for years. And it wasn't my intent to give up that power to a committee. I think the committee, in my mind, serves as somebody to make sure that we have adequate barricades, they have adequate insurance, they have adequate security if needed. And then they provide that information and make sure that they've checked all the blocks. They have porta johns, they have trash pickup, all that stuff. Stuff that this council, if somebody comes up here and wants an event approved, all of that should be done by staff ahead of time before they come here. And then we just basically look at the event, as long as it meets all their criteria. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be passed. But I think that there was a process in place before, and I thought it worked really well. If there's some reason that staff feels like it shouldn't come to council, then let me hear what that is. But I'm just trying to go back to what we always did in the past.
One more question, Madam Mayor. Who is the Special Events Committee?
I couldn't tell you
It's,
because we don't appoint them.
it's staff. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chen, you're fresh with it today.
Chief of Police, Fire Department, Public Works,
Recreation.
Captain
Velez,
and there was
Recreation
in Parks and Recreation,
and downtown.
Downtown Development Coordinator. Those are the 6 individuals who make up the SEC. That was the question I had. But I agree with the mayor. You've got 6 employees, non-elected, making decisions that commit taxpayer dollars or impact businesses. Versus, hey, if nothing else, bringing it before the council, if all the due diligence has been done and accomplished, satisfy all the criteria as established in the ordinance, then it shouldn't be an issue bringing it before the council and we vote it and they move forward.
I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, if something goes wrong and, I mean, we are the ones that obviously they're going to, obviously they might also come to you, but, we get blamed if something happens, obviously, and when we have no legislative power. I'm never going to be in favor of giving up the rights of the citizens to arbitrate for them and the businesses, and giving that to staff members that are not elected by the citizens. And I think my voting record and my decisions in the past have been to that effect, but would support that continually. But I don't see any reason why the events that we have would be withheld from being permitted. It's just, I think there's a reason for doing it before the council, and I don't want to give that up. And it's really, in my mind, you have to understand that you are affecting businesses, and you need to work with businesses when you are going to impact their livelihood. You impact, someone closes down Main Street, you have several businesses on Main Street that end up losing money that day if they're closed. Same thing for, other streets here in the city. And we just have to be mindful of that. That's the only parking they have. That's the only access they have to their business. And while we want to encourage events, we want to do it in a way that's responsible and respectful to our neighbors. Good neighbor policy.
Also, by bringing it before the council, it's made a part of the public record.
That's all I had. Staff, do you have anything? Aaron,
No, ma'am.
do you have anything, Justin? Anything? Okay,
Mayor, I would like to say anything.
sure.
On the agenda that's put out, we get it, I think we got it at 4:30 on Thursday. is it possible when there's especially big items that are being put out, that we could get this when you know it's gonna be on the agenda? Like some of these things you knew was gonna be on the agenda months ago. Is it possible to get some of these things ahead of time so we can educate ourselves and have a better understanding and make better decisions instead of cramming Friday, Saturday, Sunday to be ready for this meeting?
And these agendas haven't even been this big. I've been at council meetings where they're 200 pages plus, and that's just a lot of information to kind of cram in. So I think if we had a rolling agenda in our, I think we talked to her last month about having a annual calendar so we can kind of schedule things out months ahead, the budgeting process, all that sort of stuff. So is it possible that as she's developing the agenda, we would have something in there as a rolling agenda that we could kind of see what's in there? I know
Yeah.
we're going to go away from the Dropbox thing, right?
Yeah, we're getting ready to implement SharePoint. We were waiting until after this council meeting, so there wasn't confusion on where to pull your data from. But yeah, we will communicate that to you and get it to you as promptly as possible.
That's just a lot to get, basically, end of the day on Thursday. So you don't have a lot of time to prepare. And I mean, me personally, I still work. Jennifer works as well, but I don't have the privilege of during the day being able to spend a ton of time on it. Like,
Do we want to back the deadline for submittals?
I would recommend that submittals should arrive Friday so that staff would have Monday to put it together, and we as the council would get it Tuesday, a week before our council meeting. And if something comes in after Friday, it automatically rolls to the next month. Nothing should be slid in, after the deadline. And it needs to be made clear, because unfortunately, there are some folks who have a habit or a practice of waiting and slip something in where the council does not, or any of the other committees do not have time to review it before it comes to forum. And I think it should be for all the committees as well as the council, that if a committee, meets, they should receive their package a week before their committee meeting. And anything that comes after the deadline, then it just rolls over automatically to the next month. That way the staff is not put in a position of trying to juggle something. And likewise, committee members have the opportunity to do their due diligence. So I agree. Thank you for bringing that up. Now our meeting has gone long.
Sorry. I just had 3 little things, but
We appreciate it.
If that's what y'all like, we will make that change.
I'll make a motion.
me speaking selfishly, yes, I would like that change. Because I'm not as versed.
I'm
I haven't been on the
retired.
board I haven't been on the board as long as Jennifer. It's not my daily life where she deals with planning and development all the time. I need to educate myself. I want to make wise decisions. If I have more time to prepare, the better off I am, and I think the better off the citizens
so
are.
the change would be that right now you have until
Tuesday at 5. So you. would back it
Tuesday.
up. Yep, so
You'd back it up to Friday
At 5.
at 5. Okay.
Mhm. And that would give us, because we don't know what's coming in from the public in certain cases. So at least going into Monday, we'll have what we need to look at to get it ready in the format that y'all accustomed to seeing them.
Okay.
And I think if there's something that's an emergency, we can address that. You can bring it before the council and say, yeah, we can slip it in. I mean, I think do you agree? If it's an emergency situation, that time is of the essence. There can be a loophole or an exception to that to that timeline.
But that would warrant if we need to have a special
Right.
call
right.
conference.
I mean, it would be a one-off extreme.
Right.
But there is sometimes when I know time is of the essence and we don't want to roll it to the next month. So that could be brought up as a special meeting or brought up, email sent out to everybody and say, hey, do we want to even consider this? If so, yeah, let's have a special meeting to make sure it gets taken care of.
Sounds good. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chairman, I make the motion, we adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
I second.